Hello, guys, and welcome to the Stardom Cast, your weekly audio source of all things world-wondering stardom. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin. Happy New Year, happy 2023, and what a better way to bring in that new year than to be talking about all things Stardom Dream Queendom 2022. And what better way to do that than with perhaps the most unofficial member of our Stardom Cast family, but what many perceive to be the Hulk Hogan to our Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and, all those kind of things. We've got Karen Peterson back. Karen, how are you?
I'll take that compliment minus the racism because let's be honest.
Hogan, why don't we just say the Freedom? Why don't we just say we're the Freedom and she's our
I was going to, and then my head
the
went...
You're definitely the Mayu. That would make me the Kyrie. Look at that. There you go.
I'll be your Io Shirai. That's fine.
Stay on brand here, buddy.
I had one job. We lasted 30 seconds into the
Not even, bro. Come on. Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm glad to be back on the Stardom Cast with y'all.
So great to have you on, Karen. Always great having you on. We the first time we had John, we had a great reception from our audience, and once we made the announcement that you're coming back for do the review of the big show, it was a huge pop with us. So thanks so much for coming back and talking to us with this fantastic show we're about to review.
Of course, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we start, then, obviously, we've now rung in 2023. How did our respective New Year's Eves go, Karen? Hopefully that didn't contribute to you being ill.
No.
Oh, good.
It was the every year, probably once like Thanksgiving rolls around, it's like trying to wrap up the academic year before winter break comes in. So it was just go, and then when you go and you stop, that's when all the going catches up, and I get taken out for 2 weeks. So my whole winter vacation was just pajamas and relaxing. New Year's Eve was great. It was just Animal Crossing, some champagne and cupcakes with me and my dog. Nothing too eventful, but a nice, lovely, nonchalant, low-key one.
Honestly, that sounds like the most ideal New Year's Eve I've ever heard in my life. Like, that sounds incredible.
Pajamas, super cozy time. I mean, I like it.
What could possibly go wrong? Matt, were you in your pajamas playing Animal Crossing, or were you on a bender, or what?
It was a wild scene at the Turner household here. It was crazy. I had a beer around 8:30, 9 o'clock. I fell asleep at 10. I woke up at 11:55. My wife and the two cats were snuggled up with her on the opposite couch. And we went to go watch the ball drop, and I'm a big fan of college football. So the one game was on, and it literally came right down to the wire. It was 42-41, and the Ohio State was getting ready to kick a field goal. I like Notre Dame. I think they finished 20th regardless. And even the commentator said they better get this field goal off soon because the ball's about to drop in about 30 seconds. I switched over to one of the channels for the ball to drop, and my wife, to my surprise, said, no, I want to see if this guy makes the field goal. As soon as he kicked it, this thing was closer to hitting my house than it was the field goal post. God bless this guy. 50 million people watching, probably 19, 20-year-old kid. As soon as we flip back, we missed the ball drop, but it's, you've seen it once, you've seen it 1,000 times. Gave, I'm a romantic, gave the little midnight kiss, and by 10 after 12, we were in bed asleep.
That's
wild times, my man.
Well done.
I'd love to counteract both these by saying that, it was just a wild night that I'm still on, but no. I could have quite easily gone to bed at 8 o'clock. I'd watched Rambo 2 and Rambo 3 because, just one Sylvester Stallone film isn't enough for Goodwin. And then we just progressively brought the new year in by moaning about how tired we were, which is about as British a New Year as you can possibly get. But hopefully everyone else that's listening or watching our faces, hello, it had a lovely New Year, had a lovely Christmas, and hopefully you've got lots of exciting things planned for 2023, especially as you are listening or watching this, as we are on the eve of Wrestle Kingdom 17, which is incredibly exciting. And also a little bit of a sore spot for me because it's the first year I'm back in work for Wrestle Kingdom, so I cannot watch it live, which is just brutal, absolutely brutal. It was one of the high points of my year, is getting up early, having a McDonald's breakfast, and watching Wrestle Kingdom, but not this year.
I took a day off work, and we have Triangle Derby
We do
also
have
as
Triangle
well
Derby.
back to back because Stardom doesn't give us enough pay-per-views. So
Yes, that
great.
was going to be brought up.
and enough tournaments, right? Enough round robin
Absolutely.
tournaments. All
Absolutely.
tournaments.
Give it to me all. I don't care. I'm a glutton. Give it to me. As
Well,
long
I
as it's
didn't
good.
realize, absolutely, which it will be, but I didn't realize that the final, I think, is it slated for the 4th of March, the final,
Yes.
which coincides with roughly the start of the Cinderella, which it's just going to be one huge slab of tournament wrestling in Stardom. But hey, that's absolutely fine by me. Before we delve into Dream Queendom, which I think we can all agree had some incredible matches on, and one in particular, which is possibly one of the greatest Stardom matches I've ever seen. Matt,
Yes, sir.
talk to us about what is coming up on our Patreon.
Oh, you're going to be excited, sir, because for the white belt tier Patreon, the bi-weekly reviews that we did, the winners at the end of the month is going to be Starlight Kid High Speed Run. But coming up in 2 weeks on the Patreon feed, Rob Goodwin, are you ready? Yeah. Hanan Hannah. We're going to be doing the future of Stardom, the best theme song in all of wrestling. The future of Stardom. Hana Run will be up. Just yesterday was posted the watch along or alternate commentary we did, and just worked out perfectly the Wrestle Kingdom theme. So I did solo, as you were away there, good sir. I did MK Sisters reuniting for one night last year at the Tokyo Dome. Mayu and Starlight Kid taking on the team of Sai Kamatani and one Tam Nakano. And then coming up this next week, Mr. Rob Goodwin, as I alluded to you, I believe just yesterday, we're going to be doing the alternate commentary to the main event of Year-End Climax 2015 as Io Shirai challenges Meiko Satomaro for the World of Stardom Championship. I know one of my favorite Stardom matches of all time, and yours as well. So I think that'd be a good way to start the new year with that match.
Absolutely fantastic match. I honestly cannot wait for that. Final thing before we delve in, I did put up the ballot for the Stardomcast end of year awards last night, ridiculously late because I 100%.
I noticed that it came in like 9 o'clock my time, which I'm like, that's like 3 o'clock his time. What's he doing?
It was one of them where I was like, right, I need to post it, and then remembered that I hadn't done the tag match category, so everything else was done, and then I was like, oh my god, I forgot all the tag matches, and then trying to fill out this ballot, having forgotten every single tag match that's happened in Stardom, was a little bit of a nightmare, but I did get it done. Obviously, it's already.
What a workhorse, folks.
I know. Tell me about it. So all 8 categories are up there. Thank you to everyone that's already submitted their ballots, which fantastic. Thank you. The link is pinned to the top of our Twitter account, and the votes close on the 10th of January, and me and Matt will announce the winners and what our picks would be as well. We'll be announcing the podcast afterwards, so please go. You've got until the 10th of January to fill in that ballot. Karen, I'd love to finish this podcast after we talked about this. I'd love to get your thoughts on some of those categories as well, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Now we're here to talk about Dream Queendom, so let's delve headlong into this show. Before I go into the attendance and some things regarding that, Karen, I'm really interested because obviously last time we spoke, I don't think the full card had been announced for Dream Queendom. When you saw the card, and obviously as we are building up to this show, what were your thoughts on the card itself? Were you excited? Were there some eyebrows raised? You know, you've got Misaki in the semi-main. You've got a heavy reliance on maybe outside talent and things like that, rather than sort of going for your marquee matches, say for maybe Suri and Julia. What were your thoughts when you saw the announcements?
I think my biggest frustration is that there, like you said, there was a lot of outside talent or, special contractors that have been coming in recently, and it kind of eclipsed most of the roster. It just felt like some matches were shoehorned on there just to get everybody on the card, so the fans weren't upset about it. Personally, I didn't particularly agree with Nanae Takahashi and you winning the Goddess Tag League. I'm very team Maihime. So
neither did we.
they arguably should have won the tournament and been the ones to face Meltier in that match, but can't change the past. Maybe their time is coming soon. But also I understand why they try to make it the biggest show of the year, and having those kinds of matches and all those title defenses are part of that. But at the same time, I felt like they were trying to protect way too many people, because you were bringing in non-Stardom talent that were either going to eat the loss or take the belts off of a particular group, while protecting some people in the group but not all people in the group. Or in the example of the artist belts, they put the belts on Prominence, and Prominence is in the tag derby. So I don't understand what was the point of doing that, other than to give Prominence a whole bunch of work to do moving into 2023. Yeah, I just, if you happen to come across my review of the event from Post, I was not as kind to this year's Queendom as I was to last year's, just because I didn't feel like they should have had this many outside talents coming in to occupy the top half of the card.
I think both me and you, Matt, have said that at different points, haven't we? That there are still matches to be extremely excited about on this card. Sure. But when you consider that people like Mayu Iwatani, Hazuki are in a throwaway 6-woman tag, second on the card, you've got Saya Kamatani defending the white belt against, no disrespect to Umasaki at all. Umasaki is a tremendous talent. Is she second from the top at a Sumo Hall talent? I'm not 100% sure. And then, of course, there was the rather contentious decision, like you alluded to, Karen, about the Goddess of Stardom Tag League. And then the result that ultimately came about during the Goddess of Stardom title match, which we will definitely be talking about, and I can't wait to hear Matt's thoughts.
I have a few theories. I kind of understood, and I think I'm the only one here that watched the show live. Would I be correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Twitter was so angry. Twitter was so angry. I can't wait to get to it. I felt like I had to give virtual hugs.
No, man, I'm in my 40s. Like, I don't want to look haggard and like hungover for 4 days just by watching wrestling. So I picked sleep and was like, keep the social media closed, watch it without any distractions.
I literally finished watching it today. I'd saved Suri and Julia because I was like, I know who wins. Thank you, Twitter.
I told you as soon as the show was over, I said, stay off Twitter. This show was great.
I stayed off Twitter initially, and then it came up at the bottom of my Google. I was like, what is going on here? Why is Google conspiring against me?
It's a big show.
History-making moment. Google's like, hey, man, get on the Google machine. We got the scoops.
The animated thing at the top that changes for certain days. Next year on the 29th, it's going to be just Julia with the red belt. Spoilers.
No, it'll be Tam, because Tam's going to be the one chasing the red belt this year. You know it is.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. The thought, we will get onto our review in a moment. But we got completely distracted. But
stay tuned with us, folks.
The thought of who, obviously, if you're listening to this, you know the result of the main event, hopefully. If you don't, pause this, watch the main event, then come back to this podcast. But the thought of who Julia has got in terms of dream matches with this red belt is an extremely exciting prospect heading into 2023. I mean, Karen, you mentioned Tam. The amount of people like Mayu, Utami, Momo, all these people, potential rematches with Suri, it's going to be an extremely exciting 2023. But before we talk about the main event, because we are going to be talking a lot about the main event, let's delve into the undercard. This show, of course, happened Thursday, the 29th of December from Sumo Hall. I'm not going to do the Mayu Iwatani impression of trying to pronounce Ryogoku. In front of 3,869 people. Now, if you discount the disputed final number from 2013's Ryogoku show, which was supposedly around 5,500 people, but quite a few people believe it to be closer to around 2,500. This is the largest Seoul Stardom attendance. Obviously, they drew a huge number for Historic Crossover, but that was a New Japan promoted show as well. This 3,869 fans that turned up to Sumo Hall is the largest Stardom attendance aside from that 2013 show. Just to put into some manner of context, the other sumo hall dates that Stardom have run in the last 2 years, World Climax Night 1 got 2,712, Night 2 was a shade over 3,000, and Dream Queendom 2021 was 3,039 people. So we are over 800 people more than the same event last year. It's also the third largest 2022 attendance at Sumo Hall, with only New Japan's Declaration of Power and the Hyper Battle show, which had Kazuchika Okada and Zack Sabre Jr. in the main event. They're the only two shows to draw more at Sumo Hall. So a big attendance for Stardom. I'm surprised that they drew so well. I'm surprised because of the reasons we mentioned before with the undercard. However, a lot of this, I feel, has to go on the back of just how hot the Julia and Suri match is, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the main event was probably the main drawing card there. But again, I mean, that undercard, as much as we were kind of like, we knew it would be good matches, but not to beat a dead horse we talked about 2 weeks ago when we did our preview. We knew they'd be good matches. We were kind of scratching our head like, this is kind of your big year-end show. Like, what's going on here? But at the same time, we were drawing almost 4,000 people. I guess it worked. Again, give a lot of the credit to Shuri and Julia, but we also got to give credit to everything else on the undercard. Rossio Godwin Stardom, they presented a product that obviously people wanted to see. And not only was that show pretty well full in Sumo Hall, but a lot of people were talking about it, which means a lot of people watching on pay-per-view or just watching it as it just came up on Stardom World as well. So, kudos to them. So whatever they did clearly worked.
Absolutely. We start then with the Stardom Rumble. Now, the reason I'm a little bit confused is because this was initially set as the pre-show match, but wasn't available on YouTube, which was really confusing. And then there's the weird decision to crown joint winners with the debuting Super Strong Giant Stardom Machine and the Super Strong Stardom Machine winning the 14-person Stardom Rumble by both last eliminating Miyu Amasaki and then declaring some sort of no contest in 20 minutes and 53 seconds. Karen, I would love to hear your thoughts on this Rumble.
Yeah, as you noted, for some reason the YouTube stream didn't have the Rumble on it, but the iPay-per-view link did. I don't know why. Usually they give the Rumble away. The Rumble wasn't listed as a dark match. They had been advertising it as part of the pre-show. More than the Super Strong Stardom and Giant Stardom Machine, my problem was with Kikutaro being in the match.
Oh my god!
I got a text immediately from Rob, Karen.
It was the same problem I had with him in when he was in the All-Star Cinderella Rumble back in 2021. Yeah. To his credit, he didn't put his hands on anyone. But it was kind of like he was a creepy, lecherous old man in the ring, making grabby hands and kissy faces. And it just made me feel very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like Kikutaro. I think he's a great comedy wrestler and he was exceptionally professional. But at the same time, I'm like, it was just like, is there anybody else? Is there not anyone else that they could have put in this match that they had to, they could have called people from Marvelous. They could have called people from other promotions. Kikutaro did not need to be in this match. It just felt like weird middle-aged man fan service, but also it literally made my skin crawl. I was just like, I'm not okay with this, especially when you have like 20-year-old Miyu Amasaki fighting him off. I mean, I appreciated her kicking him when that ref's head was turned, but I'm like, are they turning Miyu heel?
Imagine if that's the way they turned Miyu heel.
On the pre-show.
Yeah, by ringing his doorbell when the ref's back is turned. But I'm just like, this is not... Yeah, and then the referee tried calling a double no contest, and they're like, no, make us double winners. And I'm just like, I feel like there was a miscommunication as to what the actual finish of this match was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Or it was just, they were trying to make it, give good old Super Strong Stardom Machine a win. But now it's like, does Super Strong Stardom Machine start a faction of other Super Strong Stardom Machines? Like, I mean, we've got like giant, we've got standard. Are we gonna have like super tall or super long or jumbo?
High speed.
High speed. Oh my gosh! But it's one of the things like what was the point? Because you could have put Miyu Amasaki over in this match. I don't understand why they didn't.
What I thought was going to happen, and I'll throw to you, of course, in a moment, Matt. What I thought was going to happen was because obviously one of the biggest things that's going on in the undercard at the moment is Waka Tsukiyama and the upped stakes of sort of she needs to find that victory before, you know, I think it's March. She needs to get it before, otherwise she's no longer part of Cosmic Angels. And I thought we were going to really, because she got a couple of joint pinfalls during this match, and I thought maybe she's going to go to the final two and get pipped to the post by Miyu Amasaki or someone like that. Get so close, but not quite. And I thought that would have told a far better story and would have been a much better use of the Stardom Rumble than to just throw Sex Pest Kikutaro in there, which, again, like you mentioned before, Karen, obviously, Matt, you weren't on the podcast, and it was me and Chris, and both of us had huge issues with Kikutaro being a part of it. He was obviously a lot more touchy-feely at Budokan. But here I just felt like it was at complete odds with the rest of the Rumble. Like, it wasn't like there was other comedy wrestlers. Like, at least at Budokan, and I'm not vindicating Kikutaro under any circumstances, but at least there was other comedy sort of wrestlers in there. There was other comedy spots. Whereas this, it was a very straight-laced Rumble right up until the introduction of Super Strong Giant Stardom Machine. So I don't really understand what they were doing with that. And then to have Waka and people like that eliminated in the most bizarre circumstances by, again, this bemasked, touchy-feely old man just felt in really, really, really poor taste. I wasn't a massive fan of it, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say any more than both that you two did. I completely agree. I mean, it is what it is. As far as the Battle Royale goes, I think it's on pre-show. I don't think it's made to take so serious. The machine, anytime I see the machines winning, especially the new one, because they has the black mask, it reminds me when I first started watching wrestling in the 80s, the machines were a big thing. And like I was 3 or 4 years old, and it's just like, I think that's on machine. I'm like, okay, that's got to be Hulk Hogan. And the Piper machine, I'm like, that's got to be the Piper machine. So anytime I saw, especially when I saw the giant machine that may or may not be Lady C come out with that colored mask, it reminded me when I first started watching wrestling way when ago. So it ended on with me with a smile on my face as we go into the high speed championship match. But yeah, I see your point of view where they could have done something like that with Waka, kind of building her up towards there and just getting ever so close. She's getting closer because technically she got, I guess, like a half a pinfall 3 or 4 times. So she's getting closer. So yeah, we shall see what happens. What's going to happen with that with the Cosmic Angels. And again, I have a theory on that once we get into it.
As do I. I have a theory about that as well.
Ooh, here we go, folks.
Intriguing. I'm going to bring that up at the end of the Pink Kabuki reunion match, as I imagine that's probably where our theories are going to converge. We opened the main card, I think. Yes, depending on whether you class the Stardom Rumble as the pre-show, we opened with the high-speed championship match with Azumi, the champion, defeating Hikari Shimizu with the numero uno in 9 minutes and 39 seconds, and in the process, tying Mayu's record of 9 successful title defenses in a single reign. Matt, thoroughly enjoyed this match. Obviously, I wasn't really well-versed in Shimizu heading into this match, but I thought she worked really well with Azumi here.
Yeah, I was day or two before I started going through some stuff or her stuff on YouTube, so I kind of got myself a little familiar with Shimizu. I was blown away by what I saw on YouTube and really blown away by what I saw with Azumi. It's Azumi. She's one of the best wrestlers of the year in any promotion. And I like how they started the show off with a high-speed championship match. Usually they don't get to the title matches other than the future until later. So I think they really started, again, if you want to classify the Battle Royale as pre-show, but I guess as the main show, they started this one off with a bang. And Shimizu did a really great job holding up with Azumi. There was even one part when she was trying to, they were on the outside, and she tied a T-Gray into the, between the second and third rope, the front row, and she almost got caught on her ponytail a little. And it kind of stuck her there for half a second, and Azumi just happened to look back and saw her, and was like, if somebody's following you on the road to go somewhere, you're like, okay, are you ready? Okay, let's go to the next spot. So it was like, just go to show you how great Azumi is in that role as leader at the age of 20, even though she's been wrestling for like 10, 11 years, that there was just that little spot because it's high speed. And if you're off just a split second, it's going to mess up your timing, it's going to mess up your ring positioning. But she saw that she was kind of just froze her just for a second because she got caught on her ponytail there, and then was able, without even a whim, went right back to everything. And then I liked how the psychology of the match was Azumi, as the high speed was starting to slow down, she's looking for the arm. If you've seen the Azumi matches, she builds to where she's working for the arm to go for the numero uno. And every time she would get it, she would get rolled up into a pin. And then, of course, you do those really fast 1 counts or no counts or 2 counts where, God bless, the referee probably has to be blown up at the end of this. He needs some oxygen because it's like, holy geez. And then it gets to the point where they're building towards the finish, and Shimizu has Azumi so close so many times that she tries a desperation roll up. And when she does, she stuck her arm in there. It's all Azumi needed. She got wrist control. She got position. She put it away. I thought this was the perfect match to set the tone. Obviously, we will get into it after the Pink Kabuki match. But with Shimizu being a part of Colors, I also believe she's a part of like the second tier of Cosmic Angels. I hope in 2023 that we see more of her in Stardom, because I thought she was fantastic. And for star ratings, I had this one at a 4 stars. Great way to start the show.
Karen, what do you think of this?
I believe that Azumi Paisen is criminally underrated. I know that she's like the queen of high speed, and that's like her gimmick, that the high speed bomb girl. But man, what I would give to see her with the white belt. I want to see her with the white belt so badly. What I love about this match with Shimizu is that Hikari Shimizu went to CMLL as part of Ice Ribbon in an exchange program back in September, October of 2022. And you could see that she tends to be one of the more quieter members of Colors. Even though she's very peppy and very cutesy, she's far more toned down. I guess if you stand anyone next to Saki, who's like the kawaii queen of the kawaii, it's kind of hard not to be toned down. But I thought that her experience in her time in Mexico probably contributed to her ability to keep up and to put her name on a lot of people's radars, because she's one of the members of Colors that doesn't really show up on Stardom as much. Saki has been the central figure representing in 2022. And I love the fact that Azumi finally has tied Mayu's record. My only concern is they're like, Stardom loves to build people up and like on a hot streak, and just when they're about to shatter the longest running record, they give them an opponent that will either make or break their run. And I guess either yesterday or early this morning, they announced that on January 8th, Azumi will be defending against Starlight Kid, who recently lost her belt. So it's I love Starlight Kid. She's one of my absolute favorites. But when you put her in a match and she doesn't have a belt, it's like, oh, they're going to put the belt on her again. So I don't know if they're going to let Azumi get that time limit draw, or if it's going to be congratulations on almost becoming the trendsetter in a division that you've carried for the last 3 years, but game over. So,
and she hasn't defended against Starlight Kid. Yeah, I'm just looking at her sort of title defenses. She's Koguma, Natsupoi, Mesaruga, Koguma again, Tekla, Momokogo, Rina, Fukin Death, Hazuki, Momoka Hanazono, and then, of course, Shimizu as well. Obviously, Starlight Kid and Azumi had one of the singles matches of the year from Cinderella Journey and Nagaoka. Fantastic match. Really, really, really high praise. They're eternal foes, as emphasized by Starlight Kid's move of the same name. It would be the perfect opportunity to have Azumi get another one over, should I say, on Starlight Kid, and then break the record as well. Because a lot of their feud was based around the high-speed belt initially anyway. And, obviously Starlight Kid's horrendous statistics heading into that belt, something like 0 for 7 or something.
Eight time was the charm or something like that, buddy.
Well, it helps when, the person she's competing against has like 5 years up on her in the experience department. It's just I want to be optimistic that, I can't deny it's going to be a great match regardless.
Absolutely,
but at the same time, I'm just like, for the love of God, let her just let her have this. Let her have this. She can lose it after that and then go after the white belt. But for now, just let Azumi do something that's not going to keep her forever in the background of Queen's Quest.
Absolutely, because Azumi is she is high speed. She is that belt personified. If anyone deserves to beat that Mayu record, it is Azumi. So fingers crossed. I can see it being a time limit. I think it's going to be a time limit draw, if I'm being perfectly honest. I think it might be the old Rossi Ogawa. Oops, I've booked myself into a corner.
No, he loves Starlight Kid too much. He protects her way too much.
Oh, yeah, he does. He does. You're absolutely right. But we've got to be positive. I do think that Azumi... Yeah, it's a fantastic match. Really good match. I do think that Azumi will win, he says, through clenched teeth, because he's not entirely sure. But I think it'll be a fantastic match, and I do think that Azumi will take it to 10 title.
So me and you are agreeing that Azumi's going to win, so you know what that means.
Oh, crap. Starlight Kid's going to win.
Karen,
our predictions are crap.
I'm cautiously optimistic for a time limit draw.
Oh, no.
If you ever see me and Rob in a casino, Karen, which is hard because we're on opposite ends of the world, and we're at the roulette table, whatever we're betting on and we agree, bet the opposite. You will be 100%. A millionaire by the end of the night.
I'll be dragging you away from the table because I'm just as bad. Like it's multiple, like whenever it comes to multiple choice tests, I'm the one I would get it down to 2 and then inevitably always pick the wrong answer.
Always.
So I'll be your run-in. I'll come save you both from yourselves.
Nice. It'll be a fun night.
We had an announcement following this match that Stardom All-Star Dream Queendom 2023 will emanate from the Yokohama Arena on April the 23rd, marking the first time that Stardom has ever run the venue. I did like the video package, how it went through these huge historic venues that Stardom have run over the last year. It will host the second night of Wrestle Kingdom 17 on, I believe, the 21st of January. It was when Noah and New Japan did their sort of third unofficial Wrestle Kingdom 16 night, and that drew about 7,000 people, I believe. It's one of the biggest indoor arenas in Japan, an apparent capacity of about 17,000. In terms of indoor arenas, there's only the Saitama Super Arena, the M-Wave in Nagano, and the Yamada Green Dome listed as being able to hold more. So this is going to be a huge show for Stardom, and I hope, he says, that we are going to get some huge matches there. I do have a theory when it comes to the white belt, but we will see. And again, I will get into my theory surrounding the white belt and this show when we get to Saya Kamitani's defense in the semi-main, Matt.
Yeah, I actually did a little research on this building, the Yokohama Arena, and the date of that show is almost 30 years to the date when All Japan Women ran their Dream Slam show and drew over 16,000 people there.
There you
go.
So
there you go. Look at me doing a little research, trying to be like you, buddy, other than just watching matches.
Karen. Oh, no, sorry, Matt. I thought you'd finished.
No, I'm done. Karen, tag, you're in.
I don't know if I'd misheard you. Did you say it was All-Star Dream Queendom or All-Star Grand Queendom?
All-Star Grand Queendom.
Okay. I was like, I know I'm sitting right here listening to what's going on, but I'm like, did I mishear? So I just wanted to make sure that I was sorry.
To be fair, there is the possibility that I did say that by accident. So please don't worry. I am that sort of person that will type it in my notes and then go, yeah, I'll read that. Why not? But yeah, it should be, like I say, I think we are going to get a huge Julia title defense. I think we're going to get a pivotal white belt defense. I feel like we have to. It's a huge venue, and if you want to be drawing huge numbers, you need to be providing huge matches. I mean, that could be something where we see potentially Julia versus Mayu Iwatani for the red belt. Maybe Julia versus Tam. They've proved that that's a drawing match.
Julia Utami
is another option. I feel like it has to be a big main event at the very, very least. But we'll see. If I had to press you, Karen, what sort of red belt match would you want to see?
It all depends on whether or not a certain rumored talent that may or may not be showing up on Wednesday is going to be working only in one company or in both companies. So
I wonder where you could be going with that.
Can I touch upon it? May I touch
upon it?
Of
course you can. Of course you
can. So
if
Ms. Mercedes Vernado, Monet Banks, Monet Money, whichever name she's using, if her involvement with the IWGP women, the rumored involvement of the IWGP Women's Championship. If that's part of the plan, seeing as they're like the rumor is that Bushi Road is forking the bill for this. If Bushi Road is digging their pockets out for this individual, it is likely that she could, and I'm saying could, not definite, because I don't work at either company. She could arguably be someone who could be included on this show. But at the same time, it's would I like to see her versus Julia for the World of Stardom Championship? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But then we get back into the argument: are they going to bring in too many big names and forsake their own roster? Utami would be a great shout, but Utami's had the belt. She doesn't need it. I would want either a special one-time, visitor, a la either Bernardo. I mean, Kyrie will hopefully, knock on wood, still be IWGP Women's Champion by then, or some other big name. I don't know if they could get anybody from AEW like a Toni Storm, because Toni Storm is one of the most beloved former red belt champions in Stardom. It all depends, but it would be I would want someone that has a connection to Stardom if they're going to bring somebody from outside, whether it's a former talent. I mean, if they were to bring back Io Shirai, I wouldn't be mad about that. Or sorry, Io Sky.
I'm gonna faint.
I mean,
it's got hot over here in the Turner household.
If I'm gonna put my wish list upon wish list for this like giant 30th anniversary of this particular date, I don't know, throw a boatload of Bushi Road money at WWE and be like, just send us back Io. You didn't let us have her at All-Star Dream Cinderella in 2021 for our 10th anniversary. For the love of God, just let us have this, please and thank you.
I mean, Noah have proved that WWE are willing to do business in the case of Shinsuke Nakamura.
It just depends on the situation.
Exactly.
And I don't know if they would consider this big enough of an event to contribute to it. But I mean, could you imagine them sending Io and Asuka and Meiko Satomura?
Oh my God.
And I mean, if it's gonna be that big of an event, if WWE could just play ball just this one time. I'm not asking for much. They're never going to give me Meiko Satomura versus Asuka at a WrestleMania. Let me have it at this Dream Grand Super Duper All Slam Cinderella, whatever you want to call it. Just let me have this one win, for Christ's sake.
Rob, me and Karen are not best friends. I just want to let you know she put all this hope in my heart. All this hope in my heart. Unbelievable. Io was in Japan for a couple of days during the holidays.
Well, they do give them like winter vacation, and I think now that Japan's opened up, they're allowing the Japanese talent to actually go, see their family after like 4 years or whatever.
And her contract was up in the end of the summer, and there was very heavy rumors that she was going back to Stardom. Maybe that was part of her deal. Was like, because obviously the old regime, I'm not going to say his name, the old regime's out, and obviously they're more open to working with people. Maybe Io said, hey, look, I would like to go back and work a show or two in Stardom. And I don't think Stardom, especially how good the booking's been the last few years, I don't think they booked this huge venue without knowing that we're getting Sasha Banks, that we're not getting Io Shirai. I did hear rumors that they've been working with Meiko Satomura to bring in the Sendai Girls. I believe that's her promotion that she owns or runs or whatever.
She established it, but it was, I think when she joined NXT UK, she had to relinquish that ownership. But as far as I know, when Io Shirai went to main roster, they probably tacked on an extension to her contract, meaning I don't think I mean, as Io Sky, I believe she's still fully contracted for the foreseeable future. And they're not like, whenever there's so-and-so's contract is up, unless that individual, it says, yes, my contract is up, or here are my next moves. I don't go by they're already a free agent, because they're not. She's not.
I mean, we had all that with Switchblade Jay White a couple of years ago, didn't we? Oh, he's a free agent. He's going to turn up at the Royal Rumble, and then he didn't, and it was a huge hot air for no reason.
He'd be great in WWE, by the way, but that's
he would absolutely. I am a huge Jay White mark. I know he's very, very polarizing, but I love him. I will say, though, Karen, that if there is ever an opportunity in Bushi Road to name their events, I definitely think you should go for that job, because the All-Star Super Duper Grand Slam big thing might be the greatest
Sounds like a
Stardom
dessert.
event ever.
It's gonna go all the way down the back of a shirt, kind of like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And they're gonna have like somebody like poor Excalibur. They're gonna bring him in just to do that all in one breath, and then like
okay.
vanish
Love
into
it.
the ether.
I'd love it. I mean, there are limitless possibilities. Obviously, the issue that they have with Io Sky in terms of, you know, in comparison to Shinsuke isn't really being used on SmackDown. He's not a champion, which I believe Io Sky is still one half of the tag champs with the
Dakota
Dakota
Kai.
Kai.
Oh, she is Dakota Kai. Yes, she is. So it depends. And obviously, Damage Control are being used a lot more than Shinsuke is as well. I would love to see it. I think there is far more of a chance of Meiko Satomura making an appearance, whether she goes for the red belt or whether that is another IWGP Women's challenger for Kairi at that point. I think that would be great. If you are making this your big show, I mean, if you can get Io Shirai, you've got to do it. You throw all the money you possibly can, because if you want a match that is guaranteed to draw money, it is Io Shirai coming back to Japan. I mean, look at the numbers that Kairi did, and look at the buzz that Kairi coming back did. And no disrespect to Kairi Hojo whatsoever, Io Shirai is a bigger name. Like, without a shadow of a doubt. I don't think anyone can argue that point. She comes back, that's another, in my opinion, 1,500 tickets.
Good for you, Rob.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought I liked
absolutely.
Io more than anybody. It's like she's gonna sell out the building just on her name.
20,000
Just Io
people
Shirai
there.
and Super Strong Machine. That's the only match.
Well, by that point, I'm sure the Super Strong Stardom Machines will be the tag champs. So that's
They're
my
gonna be
theory.
the trios champs and the tag champs. We're gonna have like a whole stable of strong machines, and they're gonna actually be members from every single faction.
Oh, imagine that'd be incredible.
They're like,
Somebody
you know,
give
the
Karen the book.
super
I should
strong
say Rob
Awato
should book
machine.
Stardom. Karen's booking Stardom. We're bringing Io, Meiko Satomura, Asuka. We're gonna have the machines are running the business.
If Mr. Takaaki Kidani is listening to the Stardom cast,
Tag 'em.
I'm
Tag 'em.
willing and able to field offers at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you've already had just a small sample size of the events that she would create and the names she'd give them. So please get in touch. Before we get, I think we'll talk a little bit more about the show as we go on. But match 2 on the main card was a Triangle Derby preview match with the team of Mayu Iwatani, Momokogo, and Hanan, who will be teaming in the Triangle Derby as H&M, defeated the Hazuki, Sayarida, and Koguma team, which will be teaming as classmates, with Mayu winning with the Dragon Suplex in 12 minutes and 4 seconds. Now, this was based almost solely around the tough mentorship from Hazuki towards Momokogo. It was alluded to during the tag final by Mayu about how Hazuki had basically given up on Momokogo. But we see it manifest massively here. And it made an otherwise throwaway tag match that little bit more compelling, Karen.
Yeah, what I liked about this match is that, one, it's a preview for the next series. The good thing is that, you know, it is stars versus stars, getting everybody on the card, but they're both in separate blocks. So it's kind of like a preview without actually having like stakes. I did love the fact that Hazuki just was basically like, I did not spend the last year of my career personally training you for you to clown around and do the Koguma pose when you're supposed to be wanting to be a serious wrestler. My only caveat with this is that it should have been a time limit draw, because it already like automatically like puts the Mayu's team a step above classmates in that versus. I mean, I know that, and of course, the only person that in that group that was going to eat that pin was going to be Saida or Momokogo.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, I completely see why. Especially as it went 12 minutes anyway. You know, it only had 3 more minutes to go, and then it was a time limit draw anyway. Matt, what did you think about this?
I think Momokogo owed Hazuki money, because holy jeez, like Wow, and we have a running joke on here, Karen, that ever since Natsupoi turned on Donald Del Mondo, that everybody on the Stardom roster just beats us. We call it the Natsupoi World Tour beatdown. I think that maybe Hazuki didn't put her contacts in and thought that Momo Koga was Natsupoi, because holy jeez, it was a little stiffsky there. I hope she bought her a drink afterwards. But the match was fine. I see Karen's point on the time limit draw, but you're already doing one later. You don't want to have two on this show, because you're going to have a lot of people complaining, and they were already complaining enough about the tag title match, which we'll get into. And that, not only that, but it's the big show. You want to have Mayu have her hand raised. So I thought the match was solid. I thought it was a little bit of a preview of what we're going to see from both these teams in the Triangle Derby. So all in all, solid efforts around. I thought everybody worked real hard. I thought Hana looked really good. She kind of got the hot tag, and she was just running judo throws onto everybody. So I thought that was very important that they did a good job in her spots and shining her up really well. But ultimately, I think the right person went over with Mayu going over with the Dragon Suplex on poor Saida. She may or may not have won earlier in the night. I'm just saying. Just saying. But, allegedly, sir. Solid match, 3.25 stars.
Yep, I gave it exactly the same 3.25 stars. I'd argue that if you want to see Mayu with her hand raised, you put her in a higher profile match. But that's just personal preference.
She could have been in that Kamatani match.
Yep,
that's exactly where I was going. Yeah, I mean, and again, that is absolutely nothing against Umasaki. And we'll get into that match presently. But Mayu could have been in that. Mayu could have been in that. Hazuki could have been in that. There was several ways Stardom could have gone. But either way, this was a really good preview for what I'm sure is going to be a very, very entertaining tournament. Now, Matt, did I make up that they are doing the very bizarre thing they did with the Goddess of Stardom Tag League, I think 2 years ago?
2020. I told you that.
Right. Okay. So they are definitely doing the cross-block matches.
Because the main event of the show that's tomorrow, or as you listen to this, already happened, is the what we have as our finals. It's the God's Eye team versus Queen's Quest team. That's the main event of the pay-per-view that's airing on the morning of the 3rd. And that's what I also think is me and you both have as the finals. As you have Sherry, Ami, and Mirai going over, I have the Queen's Quest team.
Why?
I don't make the rules. Don't be mad at me.
Why? I am mad at you, Matt.
I think Stardom is just like, we're doing so good. We had such a great year that the first tournament, we're just going to turn it into Bizarro World and see what happens.
The issue I had with this, and I text you when you mentioned it, Matt. The issue I have with this and with the cross block thing in general is that just by definition, we're already going to have seen the final. So if Azumi, Saya, and Utami versus God's Eye is going to be the final of the Triangle Derby, which it isn't because we predicted it will be, I don't understand why you would want to do that match twice. I know you've got the idea of, well, if you build it correctly and you have this really good match, people will want to see it again. But I've never understood that. I've never just put them in different blocks and have them wrestle.
You want the Matt Turner positive spin on it?
Always.
Who doesn't want to see that match twice in 5 weeks? You get to see Sherry versus Utami. You know what I mean? Well, Mirai and Saya Kamatani go at it again. There's my explanation.
Only if that leads to Mirai eventually challenging Kamatani for the belt.
Please do. Please do.
I mean, I'm pegging Starlight Kid or Mina Shirakawa, but we'll get to that later.
Oh, I'm going fully invested in Mina Shirakawa. And speaking of which, let's talk about match 3. It was a tag team match, the return of Pink Kabuki for one night only, apparently. Mina Shirakawa and Unagi Sayaka defeating the Donna Del Mondo team of Tekla and Mei Sakurai with the glamorous driver Mina in 10 minutes and 13 seconds. Now, a couple of things to note before we talk about the big things coming out of this match. I was initially disappointed that we weren't treated to Tekla's music for Donna Del Mondo. I'm a big fan of that death metal song, but as it shouts her name repeatedly, they would have had to edit it so it goes like Tekla and May, Tekla and May, and it just wouldn't have sounded the same, would it? Also, if you'd have told me at the start of 2021 that Unagi Sayaka was going to go away and I would have missed her, I would have laughed in your face. But she's improved that much that she came out and I was like, oh my God. I actually realized how much I've missed her in Stardom. And it's just, I cannot believe how much of a 180 I've done since she debuted on Stardom. And I was so negative about her and the push she was getting and things like that. And suddenly she's like, oh my God, I can't wait for her to come back, Matt.
Yeah. Mina got like a huge pop when her music hit. I was like, why are they doing the entrances separate? And then we see everything that unfolds. And at first I was like, well, I knew who Zaya Brookside was when she came out. Didn't know who the other person was. And then eventually they announced who it was. So I was like, well, it's kind of taking away from this entrance that Mina has, not unless it's leading up to something. And boy, howdy, it sure did. So as far as the match goes, the match was fine, but everybody watch your feet because I'm about to drop a name on you. I was very fortunate many, many years ago to sit under the learning tree of what is probably my all-time favorite wrestler, one Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. One of the many things that he taught me that stuck in my head, as Rob looks at me, yes. He was
what
in
a
Ring of
name
Honor.
drop.
Yes. Another story, another day. We'll get into it. One of the many things that he taught that really stuck with me all these years ago is when it comes to a tag team match, even if you're not in the ring, you're still working. Meaning to work the apron, work the crowd, do something where you're adding to the match. So to me, and ever since I heard that, I watched tag team matches completely different. So in this match, I'm watching Unagi, who's on the apron for majority of the match. The psychology and the buildup of the match is Tekla and the DDM team of Tekla May Sakurai are kind of working over Mina's jaw. Makes sense. She had the facial surgery. Makes sense. And it gets to a point where they're beating on her so much that Unagi leaves the tag rope, walks halfway down the apron, and starts leaning in between the second rope to check on Mina. Unagi's role in this match, and this is where the whole psychology comes into play, is she basically just comes in to save Mina. Anytime she's in trouble, she comes in to save Mina. They would run a couple double teams, and then even the one false finish that DDM had was Tekla's O'Connor roll into the Backlund Bridge, which we've seen her win a handful of matches with. Mina doesn't kick out of that. If you go back and watch it, Unagi has to break up the fall. Then eventually Mina goes Mina crazy. She hits a fantastic striking combination. She hits the glamorous driver Mina on Tekla. 1, 2, 3. We get the fall and we get the match. So I thought the match was pretty good, solid. I think I had it like 3.5 stars. The psychology was very well done. But before we get into the post-match angle, I just wanted to hear from one Miss Karen, who's now booking Stardom. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I just want to know what she thought of the match.
What I found interesting, along with the separate entrances, was I was like, oh, they're making a very big deal about the return of Mina Shirakawa. And I was like, okay, this is great. I was like, the whole Unagi storyline is interesting because, she decided to go into her gown period where she's working, a lot of the indies. She's working in Marvelous. She's showing up in JTO. She's going all over the place. But the underlying story is that she left without saying goodbye or talking to Mina about it right before Goddess Tag League. When, everyone was like, oh, Pink Kabuki is totally going to be in for, the conversation this year. They're finally going to get there. And then, of course, we had Kawaii Old Venus, which it was Saki from Colors, who's, the partnership with Cosmic Angels. But she was no longer with someone who had been in Cosmic Angels longer than Natsupoi had been. And then she wasn't getting back together with Tam Nakano either. So she gets injured and she goes away. She shows up at the press conference in her I don't remember what what she was trying to do with it, but her face was all taped up, making it look like she went abroad somewhere to get plastic surgery or whatever. But then she comes out flanked with 2 foreign wrestlers, when Zaya Brookside and Mariah May. And my immediate reaction is, Tam is not going to like this, because this is what happened when Tam started launching Cosmic Angels underneath Mayu's nose. Mm-hmm. And she walks out. She does, she does the big reveal. I love the haircut. I love that she wore the costume that she wore in her match with Kamitani, where she got her jaw busted open. It's kind of like wearing the outfit you went down in to get the bad juju off of it. So she shows up. She looks fantastic. She comes in with the girls. She gets in the ring. And immediately from the get-go, I something felt off. And it was the moment that she and Unagi got in the ring and they go to do the pink kabuki Jakim pose, and Mina doesn't look like she wants to do it. She does it begrudgingly, and I'm like, oh, they're starting something with them. And yeah, as you said in the match, it was like the match was generally centered around Mina and Mina being back. I did like that they harkened back to Mina's rivalry with Tekla over the SWA belt. Yes. I felt that, you know, Tekla and Mina they stepped in at a time where there was like, you know, a lot of change going on in Stardom, but also because of the pandemic in Stardom. And it was I was surprised that Tekla was the one that ended up losing the match for Donna Del Mondo. I would have assumed that it's Mai Sakurai, but they seem to be protecting Sakurai a lot lately, especially pardon me, putting her with Julia in everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was Unagi kept trying to help Mina, but at the same time, you could tell that everything Unagi was doing was too little, too late, because she, you know, Mina has the chip on her shoulder that you left me, you abandoned me when I needed you. So that's how it was like when the match is over, I'm like, something's coming. Something big is coming. And then, you know, we go into the post-match.
Whoever was the cameraman that got that shot of Mina sort of not quite up close, but about there, for people on video, if you listening, you can't see what I'm doing, but like there, and Mina's smiling. She's got Xia Brookside on one side, she's got Mariah May on the other side, and just out of focus behind Mina, you have got Unagi, who is stood on her own at the top of the ramp in floods of tears. What a visual to finish this match. Whoever got that shot deserves a pay rise. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I feel like, obviously, I think we can all agree big things are in store for Mina Shirakawa. In my eyes, she is undoubtedly the most improved wrestler in Stardom this year. I feel like even between this match with Saya Kamatani and her return here, I feel like there's been little change-ups. It felt like she was wrestling a more strike-heavy style. She was setting up in a more strike-heavy style, the way she was going in for lockups, things like that. She channeled her best Great Khan impressions with her entrance, with the mask and the taped-up gloves. But overall, I thought that Mina felt like a star. It was the same aura I got when she came out. She got the new robe against Saya Kamatani, and unfortunately, as we know, that ended in a little bit of a botch from Saya, which of course we talked about on the podcast, and I said this could potentially be, stupid as it sounds, a really, really like a blessing in disguise for Mina, like it was for Becky Lynch ahead of Survivor Series, when she was supposed to be battling Ronda and then got her face smashed to smithereens by an errant punch from Nia Jax. I get the impression that this could be the same thing for Mina, especially if this is going to haunt Saya Kamatani, this mistake she made. If they're going to sort of build this into a storyline, how it haunts her, I think this could be really, really interesting. Obviously, post-match, we get the reveal that Mina Shirakawa has enlisted Xia Brookside and Mariah May to a new group called Club Venus. Now, the way I saw it, or the way I have read into this, is that Mina is still a part of Cosmic Angels. She has not said, as far as I'm aware, she probably has, and I just haven't read it, but from what I've seen, she is in Cosmic Angels, but Club Venus is sort of an offshoot of it. In the same way, I imagine that House of Torture is an offshoot of Bullet Club. But sorry to bring up show, Karen.
Okay. My heart will go on.
But obviously, they were announced as the mystery team in Red Block of Triangle Derby. So we are going to get Mina, Mariah, and Xia as the mystery team in Red Block. I think we can all see that there is going to be some manner of confrontation between Tam and Mina, and this is going to, if it hasn't already, it's going to be sort of leading to this breakup and Club Venus becoming its own thing, Matt.
Yeah, this very much screams like what happened with Cosmic Angels being in Stars. and it worked. You know, hey, I was going to say to the two teachers, copy an A, get an A. So I think this is where they're going with. I think this is eventually where they're going with. I mean, maybe you'll see a big Mina Tam match, you know, at the Yokohama Arena. Maybe that's what we're building towards, or one of the many pay-per-views I'm sure we'll have on the way. Regardless, looking forward to it. Now, to me, and you two tell me if I'm wrong here. To me, it seemed like Mina kind of turned heel. Like this is a heel group, right? That's the vibe that I got from it, because she kind of just threw a couple forums at Unagi, which didn't even bump her, or Unagi didn't even sell, which is kind of like, oh, that kind of wasn't the way to go about it. But to me, it was kind of more of a heel turn.
See, to me, it was more of it wasn't an outright heel thing for me. It was more she feels justified in what she's doing. She feels like this is the next stage in her development. But I suppose, you know, any villain in any film or anything like that, what makes them a relatable character is that you can see where they're coming from. So I didn't see them as heels, to be perfectly honest. Maybe that's because I've never really seen Xia Brookside as a heel. It could be, though. It could be. Obviously, the attack on Unagi, you predicted that Unagi was going to be the one turning heel and leaving Cosmic Angels. What do you think, Karen?
One of the things that I liked about Mina's promo to Unagi specifically is that before she started hitting her, she basically said, I'm prepared to do whatever I need to for me. And, you know, she took it for, you know, an eye for an eye. Unagi abandoned her. She's ready to put Pink Kabuki down for good, and just lays into her. And, you know, which led to Unagi crying up on the ramp. But at the same time, you could tell that Unagi was conflicted. And I don't know how much of it's like a work versus a shoot in that particular sense, because, yeah, eventually Mina goes up to the top of the ramp. Unagi puts her arms around her and says something to her in her ear that, you know, of course, it's conversation just for the two of them. And then they go into the backstage area, and the first thing you'd see is Unagi slamming Mina's face into the table and being like, "Yeah, Pink Kabuki's dead. That's great." But there's I think they're gonna eventually, if Unagi is continuing this program where she's, you know, freelancing but also affiliated with Stardom, that they will have a singles match at some point.
Sure,
I feel like that is definitely on the horizon. Now, where, you know, Club Venus comes into play, Stardom's English Twitter did a quick video with her after the match, and she's like, yes, I am still in Cosmic Angels. However, Club Venus, meaning Mariah and Xia, are not. They are in Club Venus, which is exactly, I feel like she's giving Tam a taste of her own medicine, because, you know, they had the press conference for this particular show on, I think it was around December 6th. The Triangle Derby press conference was 10 days later, and she was not paired with Natsupoi and Tam. They took Saki from Colors and put the three of them together. And at that time, when there was a listed of XXX, but Mina was already announced coming back, I was like, Mina's showing up with someone. She has to be in that Club Venus. So when it all comes to a head, I think it's going to be because Club Venus is in the same block as Cosmic Angels. So depending on the outcome of the match, whether it's a tie or Club Venus gets the win over Cosmic Angels, I feel like Tam is just handing out ultimatums at this point. Because it's the do as I say, not as I do. She did exactly that to Mayu, and the first person she brought in was Mina. And the first person she started overlooking the most and taking for granted was Mina, which is, you know, the whole story with their white belt arc when there was like crazy bloody angel Mina. So I also feel like Waka Tsukiyama is going to make a choice. She is going to leave Cosmic Angels and align herself with Club Venus, which it would in fact be a good thing for her, because she was doing the translation live backstage for Xia Brookside and Mariah May. So with her fluency in English, she could be, especially if you're building up Mina to give her her own faction, Waka basically being told, yeah, you're not improving enough, but I'm not doing anything for you because all my attention is on Natsupoi right now. So you're on your own. You need to get a win, but I'm not really, like, I'm cheering for you, but I'm not actively working to help you.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's going to come down to Waka making a choice and being like, you know what, Tam, I wash my hands of you. I'm going with someone who actually cares about what I'm doing and where I am. And it's not you.
And when Mina attacked Unagi, Waka got in between them. And I was thinking to myself, well, if they're gonna turn heel, they should beat up on Waka, but then they didn't. So that's why, yeah, I'm agreeing with you, Karen. And then I'll throw it to you there, Mr. Rob. If you were kind of on the same side, that I think eventually, I think Waka's gonna get her win in March, and then Tam's gonna be like coming, hey, congratulations, you can stay in Cosmic Angels, and she's gonna be like, nope,
Deuces.
nope.
Yeah, very much like Starlight Kid did when Mayu went through that gauntlet. It just seems to repeatedly happen to Tam, doesn't it? She gets overlooked, and then she seems to be doing this learned behavior, and now it's coming back to bite her with Mina. I'd completely forgotten about that being the entire basis of their match at Tokyo. Was it Tokyo Dreams? No, not Tokyo Dream Cinderella. Tokyo Super Wars. But yeah, I mean, what a fantastic callback. I really like this. In case you haven't tell, in case you can't tell, we'll talk a little bit more about Waka and the entire Club Venus thing, because it will come into what I want to talk about in terms of the white belt. So let's head into match 4, which was the Goddess of Stardom Championship #1 contendership 3-way tag team match, with Mai Himi defeating the New Eras and BMI 2000, with Maika getting the pinfall over Ruaka with the Michinoku Driver 2 in 10 minutes and 6 seconds. Now, if I am reading the podcast room correctly, I am under the impression that this is the result that should have happened and everyone wanted to happen, but is perhaps a little bit too little, too late, because Mai Himi should have won the tag league anyway. Am I right, Karen?
100%. It might be that I feel like that was lifted right out of Dream Slam Weekly's event report, because that is exactly how I felt about it. Those are my feelings. You are channeling me at this very moment, where I'm just like, why is this not Mai Hime? Why are we doing this match? Again, it felt like it was we'll put the tournament victory on 7-Up, but get them on the card. But at the same time, we want to have like all these other girls on the card. So we'll just, give them a runners-up feel-good 3-way of arguably 3 of the teams that should have or could have won the entire tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And what makes me laugh is, well, Matt, let's talk to you first, and then we'll go into what I think.
This match, 10 minutes, 6 wrestlers. I say this every week on the podcast, that they do so much with such little time. They had 6 wrestlers, all looked good. They all got stuff over. Not only are you getting single stuff over, you're getting tag stuff over, you're getting psychology over. There was just some great spots, especially with Himika and Ami Sori. I thought there's some really good stuff there. I know we did the preview show. I think we had the over on Lariat's 15. I don't think it came anywhere close to that. But regardless, I thought this match was like, don't blink. You got 10 minutes of just these fantastic tag teams that all look good in tag league. And we talked about how great BMI 2000 was, because we were kind of scratching our heads thinking, why are they putting the 2 of them together? And they were the surprise team, I think, pretty much for everybody. And I thought that Tora coming back from injury, Ruaka's finally starting to hit her stride a little bit in this tag team. I thought all 3 teams were great. I think that was your pick. I think Mike and Himika was your pick, which I didn't think they'd get a tag title shot right away. I think I had BMI 2000. So kudos to you, sir, on getting one right. It happens every now and again, folks. Like a broken clock. He's right twice a day. I thought this match was absolutely fantastic. A really good pacing. And like I said, really good psychology. Everything fit really well. I had this at a solid 3.5 stars.
I think I liked it a little bit more than you. I gave it 3 3/4. And just before I talk about obviously the sort of the way it's been structured and everything, I thought the match was fantastic. I thought all 6 women did a tremendous job. I thought Ruaka looked really good in this as well, managing to muscle up. I believe it was it Maika into a fisherman buster. I thought was really, really impressive. But I couldn't shake the feeling throughout this match that this wouldn't have been affected at all had they not replaced Mai Himi with 7-Up. If you give Mai Himi the tag league victory, for a start, they're members of your full-time roster. You put them in the match with Meltier, and then put 7-Up in this match and have 7-Up be the first #1 contenders. I feel like that makes more sense, and it puts Mai Himi in a far more pronounced spot on the card, which I feel like they deserve, because both women have had really underrated years. We've talked about how on this podcast, one of my first podcasts back, we talked about how Himika had a really underrated 5-star Grand Prix. And I know that they are previous Goddess of Stardom champions, but even so, I feel like this was nothing more than something of a consolation prize. And it just, I don't know, it didn't really sit well with me. The match itself, I really enjoyed the sort of machinations of it, and, you know, the way they've structured this and the Goddess of Storm tag match later on in the night. That sort of bothered me slightly. Let's move on then to a match that didn't bother me, and that is the singles match between Kairi and Utami Hayashishita, ending in a time limit draw at 15 minutes, which I believe is another one I called. I believe I called the time limit draw in this match. But overall, what a match, Karen. What a fantastically enjoyable 15 minutes.
What I loved about this match was the stakes that were involved, and unfortunately, you know, they, like, again, Utami and Kairi are both very heavily protected, and but I was kind of wanting Utami to have that Julia post All-Star Dream Cinderella buzz cut renaissance of her career, as it were. But the other problem is that Utami is still the leader of Queen's Quest. So there was a lot at stake for both of them. You know, if they had to go back to their debut costume, their debut haircut, and like no music and no entrance, it was are you going to strip the IWGP Women's Champion literally 5 days before her first defense? Yeah. Or are you going to strip arguably one of their top tier, most popular in the modern Stardom era stars of everything, including the leadership of Queen's Quest that she just got? So, I mean, I wanted Super Rookie Utami, but the match was from start to finish an outstanding match.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Matt? What did you think?
Absolutely loved it. Obviously, these are my two favorite wrestlers, not only in Stardom, just in wrestling in general. Kudos to Kairi coming out in the blue and gold gear. That popped me big. That's those who don't know, it's the name of my tag team, Blue and Gold. What's up, Andy Header? I popped huge for that. Boy, I tell you what, obviously Kairi is the type of person, she's feisty, she hits hard, but boy, Utami brought it to her. Like, she really beat on Kairi, especially when Kairi really first got, like, it was kind of like a 50-50 match. Utami starts getting the advantage. She goes for the BT bomb. Kairi slips out and she hits this so stiff cutlass that it's just like, it seems like lately those have just been landing so super stiff. And I was like, okay. And then she goes for the sliding D, and Utami goes to kick her arm, and she like kicked right through her, like went through her arm, like hit her face. There's this really cool spot as they're building towards the finish, because she's working on Kairi's right arm. Obviously, it sets up for the insane elbow, and she puts her in a hammerlock and then gets her in a guillotine choke, which I've never seen before. And the way that Kairi sold it, and Rob, we talked earlier about the fantastic camera work from Stardom and the Pink Kabuki match. There was some great camera work where they got right into Kairi's face, and it looked like Kairi just couldn't get to the ropes, and it looked like she was going to pass out. And the ref did a great job, because you couldn't see Kairi's face at this point because her hair was in front of her face. And she's like, Kairi, do you give up? Do you give up? And had to move her hair. And when she did, Kairi just looked out. And then Kairi gets so close to the ropes, Utami switches her body, so blocking her from the ropes, and the ref does the 1, 2, 3. And I bit on the falsy pretty hard, because I thought, oh man, they're going to have Kairi get choked out here. And they did play up in the beginning of the match that like Utami kept pointing towards the IWGP Women's Belt. I'm like, okay, that's clearly where they're going. And then I thought the finish of the match was she gets drilled with that BT bomb. Like, oh, like I think like when they put together their matches, I just have a feeling that Utami and Kairi were in the same vicinity as the tag title match, where you was like, no, I'm going to put Natsupoi through the mat harder. And then Utami was like, no, I'm going to put Kairi through the mat harder. And I think they must have had like a bet or something, because I mean, the way she dropped, I watched that match twice, and the second time I watched it, my wife was just walking past the room, and I'm like, no, watch you need to watch this. She's like, aren't you supposed to protect your opponent? And I'm like, no, she did. She landed flat. She took the flat back bump. And then Kairi rolls to the outside. She hits a desperation, like the stunner on the ropes. She hits the insane elbow, and then the time limit expires. I wish they would have put this as a 20-minute time limit, so we got 5 more minutes of just this absolutely perfect match. But regardless, 15. Clearly, we're getting an IWGP match somewhere down the line. Maybe that is, the Yokohama show. A lot of speculation. But I'm going to say this to you, Rob, and I know this is going to pop you, because I'm going to connect all the dots here. And I'm sure Stardom didn't do this on purpose, but this is just me connecting all the dots. In order for Kairi, it's going to pop you. I know it is.
Okay.
In order for Kairi to get to the insane elbow, she has to hit the Stone Cold Stunner into the ropes. Who does the Stone Cold Stunner? You'll know where I'm going. Stone Cold Steve Austin. What is Stone Cold Steve Austin's gimmick? He drinks beer. How is this match set up? Utami slammed a beer in front of Kairi's face. Folks, full circle. There
you go. 7 degrees of separation, man.
Boom.
Honestly, Matt, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, sir.
That was not where I thought that was going, in fairness. I was like,
red his face is, folks. His face is almost as red as my drink cup. Look at that.
I was like, what is going on here? Yeah, there was nothing not to like about this match. I love the fact that in that 15 minutes, there wasn't a moment's wasted motion at all. The chemistry between Utami's very heavy power game and Kairi's very heavy strike game, I thought melded together really, really well. It wasn't until afterwards that obviously there's a lot of drama that inherently goes with the gimmick, which Karen's already mentioned. And it wasn't until afterwards I was like, of course they're not going to do that to Kairi. It's Wrestle Kingdom in 5 days. They're not going to have a walk out in the Tokyo Dome to no music
to vacate the belt and have Mercedes Bernardo show up and be like, I'll challenge Tam for the vacant belt at Wrestle Kingdom now. No.
Yeah, just
not my Pirate Queen, thank you.
So, but it wasn't until after that I thought, oh, okay, it's going to ruin the match. It didn't ruin the match at all. I thought both women did a tremendous job. The lack of respect that Utami has for Kairi was brilliant. Kairi coming with the blue rose and Utami just going, no, get away from me. We're wrestling and we're going to do this properly. Absolutely loved it. And, again, you're going to have to search pretty hard to find a poor Utami Hayashishita match. And Kairi, I feel like since her return, she started a little rusty and she's just progressed and progressed and progressed. And she's slowly but surely getting back to that ring shape where, her match against Sayaka Mitani was great. Her match with Mayu was fantastic. And now this match with Utami. So these last 3 matches she's had have all been really, really good.
And those first 2 were with a sprained ankle, like literally the week
of course.
Of that double header. But my thing is that she had more than enough experience getting ragdoll when she was in WWE, that even though Utami isn't that much bigger than her, she sold it so well. I was like, they're not gonna, are they? But what my only request for the rematch, much like Shuri Utami, I need it to breathe. I need a good 4 to 6 months in between, and for them not to revisit it too soon.
No, I'm with you. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, I think all of us are in agreement that Kairi is probably keeping the belt at Wrestle Kingdom, and I say probably and mean she's absolutely keeping the belt at Wrestle Kingdom. Sorry, Matt.
Squash. No. Goldberg style. Spear jackhammer.
Yeah, joins the new Suzuki Gun run by Taichi. But it'll depend. Obviously, we'll have this thing with Sasha Banks. We'll see where that goes. If they can hold off on the inevitable Utami challenge and the inevitable Mayu rematch. If they can hold off on that till maybe, August time, I think that's more than enough time to really, really, really let this feud breathe.
Give me Kairi versus Shuri, please and thank you.
Now then.
Just let her book. Just give her the book.
Just give her the book. So when super duper really long Grand Slam comes around.
Double looper with Fudge on top.
Quadruple main event in 4 rings at the same time.
A pirate
28 cameras.
And a pirate ship.
Absolutely. Oh.
She's jumping off a pirate ship at some point.
She's got to.
That happened at WrestleMania a couple years ago.
Oh, that was such a missed opportunity.
Matt, what did you give this star rating?
I'm very interesting to hear what you gave. You know me, I love things pretty much more than anybody. So I'm excited to hear what your star ratings are in the next few matches. I had this one at 4.5 stars.
Wow. I gave it a flat 4. Loved it. Again, 4-star matches are still fantastic, but I think we had the sort of, you are far more positive than me in general. So
I just love life.
You just love life, and that's such a nice vibe to have.
Yes.
Match 6 then, the Artist of Stardom Championships hardcore match. Prominence, Suzu Suzuki, Karumi Hiragi, and Risa Sera defeating the champions Ueda Tai, Starlight Kid, Momo Watanabe, and Saki Kashima, with Suzu Suzuki pinning Saki with the German suplex in 15 minutes and 54 seconds, becoming the 28th Artist of Stardom champion, stopping Oedo Tai's reign at V6 and at 215 days. Now, I was worried initially the moment Starlight Kid rode out on a bike. I was like, this probably isn't going to be the all-out hardcore match that I was anticipating. But save for the weird bike spots at the start, this was a pretty fun car crash of a match, Matt.
Yeah, Oedo Tai comes out, and you have Momo Watanabe in a baseball bat, Starlight Kid on a bike. However, as dangerous as those two are, the most dangerous person, most dangerous weapon, that trio is Saki Kashima with the Kishi Kasai. It only takes a 3 count, and they've done a great job building that move up all year to the finish of this match. Two little things that I didn't like about the match is that when we did our preview, I said, please, no tags. It's hardcore. There's no rules, no tags. There was one tag in the match, which Suzu Suzuki tagged in. I kind of gave that a mulligan because anytime Suzu Suzuki gets in the ring, I'm fine with that. But at the same time, when we're using bicycles to run over people, baseball bats, we're using baseball bats with barbed wire, kendo sticks, tables, a litany of chairs. Do we really need a legal tag, in this match? The only other small thing, maybe this is just me being a little greedy, there wasn't enough Momo Watanabe versus Suzu Suzuki violence for my liking. Regardless, that this match was awesome. We knew we were going to get a car crash match. The using of the bike I thought was great. If anybody remembers ever running over your toe when you're a little kid, when you have on a bike, that hurts. But the fact that she ran over, that definitely happened to you, Rob. Come on. There's no way it didn't.
How are you running over your own toe?
Somebody running over. Somebody running over.
That makes more sense. Sorry. I was like, how are you running? You're riding a bike wrong, Matt, if that's happening.
I've done a lot of things wrong in my life, but that's why I love life. Maybe it's not all working up here. But there's that. Then the fact that they use like the Van Daminator spot with the drop kick into the bike. And, usually whenever we say poor Momo on this podcast, 10 times out of 10, we mean poor Momo Kogo. Poor Momo Watanabe, because in order to get her to go away from this match, like her ending spot, is you can see they're building up this contraption of chairs stacked the opposite way, the way it's not supposed to be stacked. So somebody's going through it. Momo goes through it, and the cameraman, as great as they were this show, did not catch it. Did not catch it. But as crazy as that bump was, how about Suzu Suzuki with the Fire Thunder driver through the table on poor Saki Kashima? Off the top rope.
Saki Kashima took an absolute pasting in this match between the kendo stick shot from Risa Serra. She took an absolute beating.
I thought she was the MVP of this match. And again, you're building up. You're watching these. If you're watching Saki Kashima throughout this entire year, and then even especially in this artist run, which I thought was fantastic match quality wise, is they're building up the Kishi Kasai. Well, she gets out of one German suplex. She gets it into Suzu Suzuki, who's clearly the star of the Prominence team. No offense to Hiragi or Risa Serra. I'm a big fan of both those, but Suzu Suzuki's, she's on a completely another level. She doesn't kick out. She gets saved once by Hiragi. The second time, am I saying that name right?
Yes.
Hiragi.
Okay. And then the second time, she gets saved by Risa Serra, whacking her with the kendo stick. And then Suzu Suzuki quickly hits the 2 German suplexes for the win. Yeah, I thought this match was great. I thought all 6 looked great. I'm excited to see what Prominence does. I would like to see this match get run back, but in a proper tag match. Just to say, it's kind of more on the Oedo Tai side of things, even though they're all about the chaos brawling as well. But I would like to see it run back with just more traditional rules. But this one was a solid 4 stars for me. I thought this was great, and a really great way to end what I thought was a fantastic artist run from the Oedo Tai group.
Yeah, it was. Absolutely. Some of their matches have been the tag matches of the year so far, especially that one against Hazuki Hanan and Koguma from a couple of months ago. That was fantastic.
Yep.
Just before I throw to Karen, the only thing I hope now from this Prominence run, I think me and you sort of guessed that Oedo Tai were going to be dropping the belts here. I just hope that this isn't just going to be hardcore matches. Because we get a lot of that stuff on the Stardom and Showcase shows. And I feel like just the odd one being hardcore, yeah, absolutely. That's, it made this match a car crash, as we mentioned before, was probably the best way of describing it. And, giving the chance to do some hardcore stuff. Like Momo Watanabe looked like she was having the absolute time of her life, just smashing people with this baseball bat. I think it was Hiragi she put in the bin, and then she absolutely smashed the dustbin with this baseball bat. And the sound it made, I was like, how that hasn't split Hiragi open on the inside, I've got no idea. But I just hope it's not going to be solely plunder matches, because the problem is with that, it gets very boring and very repetitive very, very quickly. So I'll be interested to see where they go with that. Karen, what are your thoughts on this?
As someone who owned one of those Mamachari bicycles when she lived in Japan, anytime the Mamachari comes out in a match, I get very excited. Mine was a nice maroon color, but man, that basket Lovely. And that back rack always bring back so many memories. So I kind of pop every time I see one in a wrestling match. So I'm just like, yeah, man, those are no joke. They have there's no speeds. It's like a fixed gear. So I've seen ones where they have a kid on the front, a kid on the back. Like you don't mess with the Mamachari, seriously. So when the girls for Prominence took Starlight Kid riding over their backs, I was like, those are my girls. That's it. Well done. But that, as soon as they said that it was going to be a hardcore stipulation match, I'm like, all right, so either Prominence is getting the belts or it's not going to end well. They're not going to give a Stardom team a one up in a hardcore match over a hardcore freelance troupe. It just
who have got their own hardcore promotion.
Yes, who have their own promotion where they do death matches.
Exactly.
So, I understood with the Triangle Derby coming up that they were going to probably put the belts on some group or shelve them. But the thing is that Prominence, the trio that now are the champions, are in the Triangle Derby. So it's do you have them be a very dominant force in the Triangle Derby, or do you have them drop losses against the next group that you want to put the belts on? How Rossi has not managed to sign Suzu Suzuki is beyond me.
Oh my god!
Because she is this. I know that I don't want her to leave Prominence because that's her jam. That's why she left Ice Ribbon to begin with. But she is such a sound wrestler for being only 20 years old. Risa Serra's another one, but it was with having Stardom and Showcase, which I believe they're having one either in January or February. There's another one coming up. You could have easily put this match on at that show and just had us, do another triangle. My thing was that with these trios matches, you could have had another Triangle Derby preview because you have. I know that the Oedo Tai group, they're being split up for the Triangle Derby, meaning Starlight Kid is not with Momo and Saki in the Derby, but it was I feel like they could have done something different. I don't feel like it had to be a hardcore match. If they run it back at some point as a hardcore match for Stardom and Showcase, give me 10 on 10, give me all of Prominence versus 5 people from Oedo Tai. But yeah, I enjoyed the match. I just didn't necessarily think it was we needed it as a palate cleanser on this card when you have so many other matches you could have done on the card instead.
No, I completely see where you're coming from there. Completely see where you're coming from. I echo your sentiments about Suzu Suzuki. I imagine anyone with eyes echoes those sentiments. Suzu Suzuki is a wrestling prodigy. I think she's going to be absolutely tremendous. And hopefully at some point she's able to, or Stardom are able to tie her down, because I do think she will be fantastic. I do like the idea, just to close off this match, Starlight Kid cutting that promo about how she was going to rip off Suzu Suzuki's head, and it got very gory and very violent, and then she came out on a bike. I thought the disparity between those two things, it just really made me laugh.
You have to understand the art of the Mamachari. You have to understand the bicycle. It's very poetic. They're all over the place in Japan. Like you get hit head on with one, they clip you. It's not a good time. Even the little bell, they ring the bell, and it's a very aggressive ring. It's like, it's not just like ding ding. It's like ding 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 on your left, on your left, on your left. Like, well, I just want to let me just chain my bike up, please, and thank you.
Can I say one more thing about this match there, Rob?
Of course you can, yeah. Because that's just reminding me of something. So
real quick, just want to shout out Fukin Death here, because she came out as Goken Death in the Rumble, and then she came out as Fukin Death. Yeah, she just completely makeup changed the whole night for all about 3 minutes of camera work. That's sticking to the gimmick. God bless you. That's so many points in my book. That was great.
I 100% thought we were getting the three faces of Fukigen in the Rumble. I was like, oh, she's going to come out as Fukigen, then Gokigen, then Fukigen, and then she's going to come out as Death Yama-san or as Kaori Yoniyama. I was like, oh, we're definitely getting that. And then she got eliminated and started off. I was like,
she's got to get her makeup ready for this match. That's what it was. That makeup takes a long time, buddy.
You gotta wash off your face, reapply.
You got to stub out all those
it's not just slap
imaginary
and go, man.
cigarettes.
Makeup takes time.
We have it easy, buddy. Like we have
know,
throw some gel in the hair, brush the teeth, tie the tie, out the door we are. So that's all I wanted to say to.
I did enjoy, obviously, Karen talking about the bells on those bikes. I did enjoy the fact that Starlight Kid sat at the top of the ramp ready to go over the prominent people on this bike. And obviously the bell wasn't loud enough, so she was ringing it and then shouting, ring, ring. I was like, that just eliminates any sense of hardcore.
That's very I was having flashbacks, I kid you not, man, even in the small towns. Oh, Lord.
I am really looking forward to hearing Karen's opinion on this match. Match 7, the Goddess of Stardom Championships match. 7-Up defeating the champions Meltier with you getting the pin with the last ride powerbomb on Natsupoi, joining that less exclusive club of the Natsupoi Beatdown World Tour in 15 minutes and 57 seconds. Now, I'm going to get this off my chest before I throw to Karen. 7-Up become the 26th Goddess of Storm champions. They've stopped Meltier's reign at V3 and 130 days. I hate the result, but the match itself in a bubble was excellent. Thoroughly enjoyed the actual match itself. I thought Nene and Tam looked brilliant. Natsupoi, God bless Natsupoi, because the beating she took in this match was unreal, from between Nene Takahashi laying hands to you, who just apparently was just a juggernaut in this match. She ran through poor Natsupoi. But I do not understand why you would put the championships on 7-Up, Karen.
So.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. What have we done to her? We broke her.
You broke me. No, it's again, this is me being salty about them winning the Goddess Tag League when they didn't need to do it. And the thing is that I understand the purpose of Nanae Takahashi being in Stardom as one of the original Stardom, OGs, as someone who's a legacy talent, had his history with the company. But the point of her coming back should be much, much like Kairi, to have matches and put newer talent over. Natsupoi is still relatively new in the company. She came over, I believe, in 2019. And it's, she still has a relatively short career. This match should have been showcasing that. And instead, you walk into the match where, one, Tam has an IWGP Women's Heavyweight Singles Championship match on the main card of Wrestle Kingdom 5 days after this match. Mm-hmm. So she's either going to go in with the Stardom belt and being like, hey, look, Stardom's important too, but she's going to end up ultimately losing to Kairi. Or you have Nanae Takahashi, who has exceptionally decorated, now is working freelance, working in multiple promotions, who's tagging with you, who is also an outstanding wrestler. But, she has 3 championships, 2, one, the Pure J Openweight Championship, I believe, and the Eve International Championship. There was no way that you or Nanae Takahashi were losing that match purely because of how decorated they are. So it was like Natsupoi was basically in the match to lose it, and I don't agree with that. Especially because Nanae Takahashi and you are teaming with Yuna Mizumori in the trios tournament that starts tomorrow. It's the why did you have to go so far as to serve them a loss? Is it because Natsupoi has to be the one to eat all the derby losses because they're not going to do it to Saki? Or is it Yuna Mizumori is going to be the one eating all the losses that 7-Up ends up having in the derby loss because she doesn't have a championship belt? So it was just very frustrating when, I get the historical significance of Nanae Takahashi in Stardom. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, you have, again, going back to Maihime, who in the last year both challenged for the white belt and the red belt and didn't win either. They challenged for the Goddess's belt. They had the belt. They lost it very quickly. it's just, I don't understand. Like, I need somebody to help me make it make sense, because if they were going to shelve the titles for the trios tournament, that'd be one thing. But they're in the trios tournament, meaning they are not, they're not going to eat a lot of losses to begin with, or if they do, it's all going to be on Mizumori, which isn't fair to her. And Rant.
I get the impression that Mizumori is unfortunately in that team and as the pin eater. I hold much more value in Takahashi, as you know, she turned up at the New Blood show to have what I think they called a passion injection match with Lady C.
Yeah,
I see far more upside in Takahashi doing stuff like that.
correct.
You know, raising Lady C, and you know, even this they sort of teased maybe some sort of mentorship with Waka.
Correct.
You know, something like that is far more. Is such a better use of her, because ultimately she's late 40s. She hasn't got a lot of time left in the ring, unless she's like Aja Kong, who just apparently does not age. You have in Meltier one of the most marketable teams you have had in years. They've just released that single, which I now can't get out of my head, and it's really annoying because I don't know the bloody words.
I just know Taiki standing behind them, not doing anything.
Stoic. I do not understand why you would take the belts off them,
and
especially not at this point.
Nanae Takahashi just turned 44. She's not late 40s. She's a year older than me.
Oh my God.
She is mid 40s. On December 23rd, she just had her birthday.
Happy birthday, Takahashi.
but yeah, that's the thing, is that, you know, I don't see the need for her to have the belt.
No, she doesn't need it.
Let her do the mentoring thing, like you said. Like, it's just, there's like, it just doesn't need to be that way.
No.
Sorry.
And don't get me wrong. No, I completely agree with you. And had they lost this match, but given as good as they got, you know, that exchange between Tam and Nene, where they were literally just slapping the hell out of each other, that was great. I loved that. That's what she needs. That's why she should be in the promotion. You listen to the reaction that 7-Up got when they won the tag league, and it was silence. And I'm not talking COVID clap crowd silence. I am talking tumbleweed silence. And yes, they were more well received here, but there was still a very noticeable sort of, oh, they won. I did properly feel for Natsupoi, because yes, she hit the Ferial Gift, but other than that, she had very little offense, and she was there as a punching bag for you and for Nene Takahashi. And to her credit, she sold like an absolute beast, and she made those two women look fantastic. And again, as a match, I love this. I gave it 4.5 stars. It's a really, really good match. But the implications of this match, the implications of the fact that they've taken the belts off Meltier, which I still can't quite work out. Whoever had won the tag league, I wouldn't have taken the belts off Meltier here, because I feel like there's more you can do with that tag team. Unless, and this was the only thing I was thinking, unless, obviously, with this single that they've released, are they not going to be on every Stardom show? Are they potentially doing, you know, press for that and maybe even tours for that? Is that why they've taken the belts off them? But even so, it didn't need to be 7-Up that took the belts. I feel like, as you said, Karen, My Himi were far more qualified to take the belts and deserve the belts more. Matt. Oh, sorry, Karen.
Real quick, I was just gonna say, you know who beat 7-Up in the Goddess Tag League? My Hime. Just saying. Stardom Gold Rush.
There you go.
I'm done. I'm really done this time. I'm sorry.
Are you sure? Are you sure, Karen? Matt, go on. We need your positivity, my man.
Absolutely. And you know me, I am the, as we say, other than Rasiogawa's accountant, I am the biggest Meltier fan in the world. So again, Rob, I'm with you and the star rating 4.5 stars. I thought this match was great. I'm going to disagree with you, both of you, just a little bit on Natsupoi. I thought that, I always have the saying, it's not who goes over, it's who gets over. I thought Natsupoi, other than Shuri, Utami, Kairi, and Julia, was the MVP of this show.
So half the card.
Well, you have 40 people in the Rumble. And those matches, I don't know if you noticed, Rob, were really good. So
they were okay.
She got in the Pharaoh gift. They built up to the German suplex, and she got the German suplex on you. She got the and I know going into this match, my big concern was Yu's selling or lack thereof, because there was a lot of matches in Tag League that she sold very little, didn't sell enough, or didn't sell it on. Some of it was warranted. Again, the Miyu Hamasaki, her forearms, they couldn't break an egg. That I get. But I was worried if like her selling, and she sold very well for Natsupoi. Now, granted, Natsupoi had to bring it. And Natsupoi with her kicks, she gave you the low angle drop kick where she almost drop kicked her right through the ropes, and she hit that low spinning kick, the one that I think she won a few matches in the 5-star with. She drilled you with, and there was again so I thought Natsupoi got over great in this match. I thought she got enough offense in. She did make Nanai and you look really, really good in her selling. I thought the tag work between Tam and Natsupoi was better than it ever was. I mean, not that it was bad before, or not that it was bad before, but I mean, they were absolutely on point in this match. They did this really cool spot where Natsupoi did the dive to the outside and you caught her, and Tam was right there to do the dive onto you that's holding Natsupoi. I thought that was really, really good. When you hit the Natsupoi hit the Ferial Blink onto you, I thought that was the finish, which I thought would have been a great finish. And then as soon as you kicked out Tam, and it was right on the other side of the ring, Tam came running across right from the other side of the ring, like the full ring length, and drilled her with a violent shooting. I thought that was great.
Was a great spot. To be fair, I love that. And she came off camera as well, so it looked even
you
better.
Didn't see it. You just see all this purple coming in, and boom, just hitting you right in the face. I thought all 4 women were great here. They did a great job building up to the finish, where they kept trying to go for the last ride powerbomb, and Natsupoi would get out of it, and they would do a couple pin attempts. I don't agree with the result. And again, I know I'm the only one that watched this match live. The Twitter world was abuzz to the point where I had several people tweeting at me saying, "I'm done. I'm not watching Stardom ever again." Wow. Which I'm like, you realize there's 2 more matches, right? Like, you paid your pay-per-view money for these 2 title matches with 2 of the best champions in all of wrestling. You're just going to shut it off now. But I was like, my thing is, and obviously if they want to take the belts off, my first reaction was, if they wanted to take the belts off Tam and Natsupoi, why not Mai Hime? So I agree with you guys there. However, after thinking about it for a day or two, I think what they're doing is, I think Rossy Ogawa and Stardom, they want a big title change at that Yokohama show. And I think they don't want a 50-50 match or even a 60-40 match. I think they're going to run this match back on that big show, where 99% of the people are going to want Meltier to win the belts back. So if you had, only 1% would want to see 7-Up, even if, I'm kind of rounding up, or would want to see 7-Up retain the belts. But I think if you went into that and you did Mai Hime as the champions against Meltier, the challengers, I think you get more of a 50-50 or 60-40. Very much in similar the way they built up that the big New IWGP Championship match at Madison Square Garden, where it looked like we were going to get Tanahashi and Okada, but they switched it to Jay White because they wanted everybody to cheer at the very end. And if Okada won, not everybody would have cheered him. They would have, maybe they would have wanted Tanahashi to win. So my point being, I think that's do I agree with it? Absolutely not. You have the single, the photo book. Karen hit it right on dead center, home run with the whole. You have Tam coming out of the Tokyo Dome in just 2 days. She comes out with that Goddess of Stardom belt. And you could say, well, Kevin Kelly or Chris Charlton will say, well, that she's one half of the Goddess of Stardom champion. You literally have a free plug the website as she's walking down to that giant rampway at the Tokyo Dome. You missed that opportunity there. You have, what I'm sure is going to be the #1 single in the history of music, debuting, Double Frontiers debuting on Apple iTunes. A lot of missed opportunity here. The only thing that I can think of is the reason why they put the belts on them is just so that they can build this match, the rematch back up for that show in Yokohama, so Meltier can win in front of how many, it's going to be the most watched Stardom show ever, between probably attendance-wise and pay-per-views and whatnot. So that's the only reason I can see it. If there's something else there, I don't know. But consider the fact how great the show was, and the match was great, but I literally had people tweeting at me. They were done watching Stardom. They were done listening to the podcast. One of our Patreon members said they were canceling the Patreon.
Gosh.
Yeah, and I looked 24 hours later, and we lost a Patreon member. Was that person?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's like,
But that's not your fault. Why are they
exactly?
guys?
Exactly. I'm like, how? Again, other than Rossio Gawa's accountant, I'm the biggest Meltier fan in the world. My daughter literally for Christmas drew me a picture of Meltier. Go check on my Twitter, Matt Turner OF. It's on there. Like, and I was like, oh, that was kind of all right. Well, I don't know why they did that, but I wasn't like, I'm not turning off this pay-per-view with 2 matches left. I'm glad I didn't. And if you did, if it wasn't an empty threat and you turned off the show with these last 2 matches, sorry. I don't know what to tell you, but I didn't book it. But overall, ended on a positive note. Great match. I thought Nanai and Yu was great. I thought Yu sold perfectly, which, like I said, was my big concern about the match. I thought Natsupoi was the absolute MVP of this match. Her and Tam clicked better than they ever done before. Excellent match, and I hope they do run this back, and I do hope that Meltier get a long-term title run with the belts.
I feel like if that's the route they're going, that is a big risk. And not only a big risk, I feel like it's an unnecessary risk. You have got the sort of, the de facto heels in 7-Up, even though they're not being portrayed as heels in any way whatsoever. I feel like you could have just done Meltier versus My Himi at Stardom, big, long, super duper curly whirly Grand Slam. And
on top.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it would have sold on just the fact that those 4 women in the ring they're going to have an outstanding match. If you need it, you've got the history between My Himi and Natsupoi. And the fact that Natsupoi effectively turned her back on them to join Cosmic Angels and Tam. I didn't really want Meltier to drop the belts here to anyone. Whether it was My Himi or whether it was Fukuoka Double Crazy or whoever won the tag, like Aphrodite. But I certainly didn't want it to, I don't know. And again, this is no disrespect to Nene and to you. I'm a big, big fan of you, and people who listen to the podcast will know that I'm a big fan of you.
You mean me?
Yeah.
You?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, me.
Big fan of both of you. But yeah, to end the reign, they've only had 3. Well, this was the 3rd title defense, so they've only had 2 successful title defenses. They've only held the belt for 130 days. I feel like they could have done so much more with it.
Yeah.
And I felt that it was cut short. However, again, in Stardomcast way of ending things positively, it was a very, very, very good match. Match 8 then, our semi-main event for the Wonder of Stardom Championship, saw the champion Saya Kamatani defeat Haruka Umasaki with the Frankensteiner in 16 minutes and 11 seconds. Now, obviously, me and you, Matt, we aren't as familiar with Umasaki as I know Karen is. So I'll be interested to get your thoughts in a second, Karen, on Umasaki and whether you think this was an appropriate spot for her on the card, let's say, or how she fared here in terms of, is this one of her better matches, for example? But in my own personal opinion, and the very, very small cross-section of matches I've actually seen of Umasaki when she's not messing about with fireballs, I thought she did a good job here, despite the inevitability of the result. I reckon maybe 3 people in the entire crowd thought that Umasaki stood a chance of winning. I thought she did very, very well. Proves without a shadow of a doubt that she does not need an alter ego, especially one that throws fireballs. But I think Saya did a great job of selling for Umasaki. I thought she pinballed herself around the ring so well in order to sell some of those strikes, which really, really helped. However, God, I wish it had been someone else in this match. And that's no disrespect to Umasaki. It was a good match. I gave it 3 3/4 stars. But to think that we could have had Mayu Iwatani, we could have had Hazuki, we could have had anyone on the main roster, Himika, Micah, anyone going for that white belt, and it would have been a more marketable match. And again, I feel bad saying that because I feel like I'm being negative on Umasaki, and I'm not. I think she did a good job here, but I don't think she warranted a white belt shot. What about you, Karen?
To her credit, Umasaki is Wonder Women's Wrestling Diana or Deanna, depending on the Japanese versus English pronunciation. She's their young ace. She's been wrestling for about 4 years, which is roughly around the same amount of time that Kamitani has been wrestling, and that was the large conversation that was going on in the Japanese commentary. Was that they're both very advanced for as short as their careers are. I like Umasaki. I like her much more than her Karma alter ego, which you touched upon.
I think everyone does.
I did love that she has been kind of a mainstay in the New Blood series because she is another wrestler that's under 25 that has a very short career. Part of me wishes they would have rolled out Konami for this match, now that I think about it, because it was a year ago that she had her last match with Julia. Because Konami, she isn't full time with Stardom anymore. She comes back whenever they roll around in Hiroshima, where she's from, but even someone like Konami, who is, formerly Stardom, but still actively wrestles in Stardom on Stardom main card shows, would have made the match feel more like it had bigger stakes because Konami never held either singles title in Stardom. And I just felt like I like Umasaki. Don't get me wrong. But I felt like her being put in this match was purely to pad Kamitani's defense record and give her an easy win before possibly, breaking Momo Watanabe's record that stands at 13 defenses, which is kind of unfair to Umasaki. But
exactly,
I wish that if they were going to give Umasaki this slot, they would have signed her to a Stardom contract. Like make her part of the company before you put her in this position. Give her a little more time working up, because she did work some matches leading up to this, but it was literally the last 2 weeks of December where they were doing the year-end shows that she was participating and wrestling with Oedo Tai, but as her babyface persona, not as her Karma alter ego. So it was just, it's very jarring. I feel like she's having a personality crisis right now. Is she Karma or is she Haruka Umasaki? I mean, I like her, but it's just one of those things where it just felt unfair to her and unfair to other members on the roster or other potential outside opponents that Kamitani could have had at this biggest show of the year situation.
Yeah, I mean, you said about how I think you've encapsulated that perfectly. It was unfair on Umasaki to put her in this position when you had so many other options. If you're going to pad Saya's defense record, obviously we know we're getting close. She needs 2 more victories to surpass Momo Watanabe's successful title defense record. I think you could have done something else with that. I'm not saying don't put Umasaki in a prominent position, but I don't think it should have been here. Matt, what about you?
I love this match probably more than just about anybody. And let me give you a few reasons why. So this match, Saya Kamitani came out, and I looked at my clock. It was 6 a.m. I was up at about 2 o'clock to get ready for this show. And my dumb ass decided to watch a good majority of AEW the night before. So I'm running on a little more than 3 hours of sleep. I am on holiday break, though. So it's it is what it is.
That's fine.
And I'm I'm not making it through. I'm going to miss these 2 matches because I'm just not that obviously I absolutely love the show up to this point, just physically exhausted. And then the match is going, and they do this spot on the outside where Umasaki gets slammed off the top rope onto the apron. She could not have other than hitting the back of her head, she could not have hit the apron any worse. She was better off missing the apron completely. Seriously, missing the apron completely. So this way she can at least take a full flat back bump. She hit that so fast, didn't have time to protect herself. And I thought, ooh, this isn't good. This may end the match early. And the next spot, and you go back and watch it, is you see Saya Kamitani zoomed in on, and she's going like this with her hand, meaning you're too close for the next spot. You need to back up. The camera pulls down, and Umasaki is just standing right there. She can't barely move. And Saya goes, she jumps over and tried like an X Factor. I don't know what it was. But it got to the point where she kept going like this with her hand. It's at a point where it's now I got to do the spot because everybody's going to see through the magic trick. I got to do the best I can here. And then she's giving her time. I'm thinking this thing's going to go home early. This thing's got to go home early. Sure enough, Umasaki's able to gut it out. I don't know how much pain she was in. She clearly was in a lot there. They were able to keep everything on course. And then once they're building towards the end of the match, and it might just be something with the wrestlers at Queen's Quest, the way they build their championship matches is just unbelievable. It just builds and builds and builds and builds. And Umasaki hits a top rope double unhook suplex, gets a 2 count. Instead, and then she stays on her, and then she hits the Northern Lights 2 count. She hits a German 2 count. Like she doesn't like sell, like she just fires up. She goes for one after another. I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer. No wasted motion. And then she comes off the rope to go for something. Saya hits that big spin kick. Saya does her things. She hits the Star Crusher 2 count. She goes to the top rope for the 450. She missed. I mean, she ate everything on that 450. She came down hard on that, and good on her because that puts over Yumasaki. Yumasaki does the Lamai Straw Cradle. She doesn't do 1, she does 2. And where she had her was dead center in the middle of the ring. And the way that she had her, the way that she was bridged up, there were people in that crowd, again, go back and listen, that bit on that finish. And nobody thought that Yumasaki was going to win. It just does a great job of Saya Kamatani selling a finish, building up to a finish. So in regards to the psychology of the match, she kicks out at 2.99. Everyone, there were so many people that bid on that finish. Yumasaki has to stay on Saya because she's getting closer and closer and closer. She comes off the ropes. She gets hit with the Frankensteiner, her Karana, whatever you want to call it. Saya grabs her leg. She's right in the middle of the ring. And I'm even thinking, I love the Star Crusher. I love the 450. I love the Phoenix Splash. This is where this match needs to end. And end at the perfect spot where Saya catches her again by using her experience and is able to get the 3 count. I had it just a shade under 4.5 stars. I had it 4.25. I absolutely love this match. And again, considering the fact that 15 minutes before that, I was like getting ready to see the inside of my eyelids, and I was just so pumped for this way this match built. And I was so concerned, obviously, for Yumasaki for that bump, but her to gut it out, and for the two of them to build to that finish. One, I hope Yumasaki, I hope they sign her to a contract as well. Again, stay away from the karma stuff. You want to do it once every now and again on a showcase show, whatever. It just goes to show you how just great Saya Kamatani is. The way that she was able to bounce that match back from that early, what could have been an injury or maybe just getting hurt at the moment, and just the way that she put Yumasaki over towards the finish, just genius. Saya Kamatani just wrestling. You think she's wrestling 4 years, you think she's wrestling 20.
Yeah, definitely. Again, massive improvement when you consider her actual experience. I did enjoy the fact that she didn't even attempt the Phoenix Splash here. And I do, if they are building this into a storyline with Saya regarding Mina Shirakawa and the injury and things, and obviously she calls her out after the match and sort of offers her a rematch, but when she's ready, when she's shaking off that ring rust, I do like the idea that Saya is doubting herself and sort of doing everything she can to not hit the Phoenix Splash because she's worried about what damage it could do. Obviously, talking about Saya now, currently, she's at 369 days with the championship. So whilst when you hear this on the 3rd of January, she's going to be at 370 days, tying with Arisa. So she's second in terms of longest single championship reign. Ami Story. She called out Ami Story post-match and basically named her the next challenger. Am I crazy? Surely the next person to challenge for this Y belt after Ami Story has to be Momo Watanabe. Am I just that? But it has to be, surely.
Karen, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure, I'll go. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be Momo is going to circle back to her angst against Queen's Quest and do everything she can to stop Saya's streak, because that's her record and that's what, Saya's been very vocal about. She wants to become the name that's synonymous, but she can't become the name that's synonymous with the belt without beating everybody associated with it, including the one who owns the longest running record, which would be Momo. The fact that she has to Kamatani's defense against Amisore is this coming Sunday for the white belt. I feel like, again, to go back to the Umasaki match, Umasaki could have been on this match coming up.
Yeah,
and they could have had a different opponent. But my other problem is that Amisore is currently the future Stardom champion.
Mm-hmm.
She's not losing that belt between now and then. Why is she in this position? I mean, I get that she wants to, Kamatani wants to fight credible competitors, but on that same day, there is a Stardom scramble that has the following participants, if I may.
Please
Mayu
do.
Iwatani, Hazuki, Koguma, Saya Ida, Momo Kogo, Maika Himeka, Utami Hayashishita, Lady C, Miyu Amasaki, Ruaka, Shuri Mirai, and Yuna Mizumori.
You know why this match is coming about, though, right? Because she didn't beat her in the 5-star. The final night, they went to a double count out. She's trying to she wants to get that win.
I know, but my problem is that I don't like it when there's the whole double belt thing coming into play, because Kamitani can't ever challenge for the future Stardom Championship because she is more obviously very much the future of the company. She's the present and now and omnipresent of the company. It's just the timing is all off on it. Like had Ami not had the future belt right now, sure, fine, whatever. It's just I know what they're trying to do, but then it's where does Shirakawa fit into this? Is Shirakawa going to be the one to defeat Kamitani's reign after she probably faces Momo and goes to? And I don't see Momo losing that match. I feel like it's going to go to a time limit draw. And I can't do a 30-minute Saya Kamitani match. I like it when her matches are short.
Looking at the way it's laid out at the moment, the schedule for Stardom. So Ami Souri's match, her title shot is going to be on Sunday as we record. So that means we've got Osaka Supreme fight in February. And that's the last pay-per-view. I mean, it won't be because it's Stardom, which means we're going to have 700 pay-per-views in the interim. But that's the last big show before the Yokohama Arena show. So my impression is that the Osaka Supreme fight is where we're going to see Momo versus Saya. And then I think they will have Mina take the belt off Saya at Grand Queendom at Yokohama.
What about March 4th, which is the finals of the Triangle Derby?
We have Saya in the finals.
You could have Saya in the finals.
We have Saya in the final, yeah.
Yeah, we do, actually. That's a good point. Yeah, we do.
That usually means it's not going to happen then. So.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. That's a very good point, yes. I mean, she could have, again, I don't want to be disrespectful, but we were talking about how there's going to be a New Blood premium show, which I'll be amazed if it's not a pay-per-view, because isn't it a Yokohama Budokan, or have I imagined that?
It's a big venue.
I think it is Yokohama Budokan. I wouldn't be surprised if Saya has a smaller title defense there. I mean, that would have been perfect for Umasaki if we're being perfectly honest, because I think that's March as well, so that would have been a perfect spot for Umasaki. But I don't think Saya leaves Yokohama as the champion. I think if you're going to have Saya beat Momo's record, she needs to do it definitively. There's that great Jericho line, and he says, when you try and get everyone over, no one gets over. And I think if you are trying to protect everyone on your roster from losing, you are protecting no one, because it ruins the entire mystique of your championship. If you try and protect Saya and Momo in that match, it feels like there's unfinished business by the time she's dropped the belt. Have her win definitively. I mean, I don't like being negative, but in my opinion, they missed the opportunity with Momo's turn. Momo's turn was the biggest thing coming out of Osaka Super Wars last year, and they didn't capitalize on it. She's not particularly hot at the moment. This is actually the perfect time for Saya Kamitani to beat her, because, to be fair, Momo Watanabe can eat a loss and it's not going to do a great deal of damage to her. And to be perfectly honest, she's, since she had the white belt in 2019, pardon me, she hasn't really been heated up in the same way. So I hope it doesn't go to a 30-minute draw, but that is more because I want Saya to do it definitively before she drops the belt. And I do think she drops it to Mina. Karen, do you think she drops it to someone else?
The only other person I could realistically see her drop it to would be Starlight Kid, because that's been the story they've been telling the last year plus, is that when it comes time for Starlight Kid to actually have a match with Kamitani that matters, she can't do it. She can sneak a win in every now and then, but when there are stakes, like the white belt, she can't do it. So if it's not Mina Shirakawa, it's more than likely going to be Starlight Kid. I thought they were going to do it with Mirai. They didn't do it with Mirai. I thought they were going to do it with Natsupoi. They didn't do it with Natsupoi. Or Maika or Himeka. So Starlight Kid, with as beloved and as like, she is their marketing machine. I think she's actually surpassed many of the other, faction leaders in that regard. That, she's not the leader. She's not the leader of Oedo Tai, but they use her for everything.
Figurehead, yeah.
So
I mean, to be perfectly honest, she was a massive reason that Oedo Tai turned round from how negatively they were received at the start of 2021. Her turn and subsequent sort of filling in for the injured Tora, that was a huge reason as to why Oedo Tai came about so strong towards the end of the year. So that doesn't surprise me. And I think she's embraced this heel turn really, really well.
And also the fact that she's the only full-time masked wrestler. I mean, I'm not gonna talk about, I do love me some super strong Stardom Machine and now Giant Stardom Machine.
Damn right.
But they are the outlier in this situation. That by and large, you do not see any other full-time masked wrestlers in Stardom. Starlight Kid, like, I feel like that's part of the reason why Queen's Quest did away with the masks, was to put more focus on Starlight Kid's entrances and make it more important and make it feel like something much, much more. So yeah, if not Shirakawa, it has to be Starlight Kid. Those are the only two. So it's like, does Starlight Kid win the Cinderella tournament this year? I don't know. I'd like to see it happen though, but I was wrong about that last year.
I mean, I'm going to go Azumi again for the third time in 3 years.
That'd be great.
It's got to happen at one point, hasn't it? Matt.
Old promoters saying when business is good, you don't take the belt off. You're one of your top draws unless you find somebody better. Obviously, we'll talk about Sherry and Julia. I could be wrong. I just don't see them taking the belt off Saya for at least a little bit. If they do take the belt off her in the spring or summer, I hope it's to the Cinderella winner. It'll just put that much more, oomph on the Cinderella tournament. I see Mina. I see that as a possibility. I see Karen's idea there with Starlight Kid, especially how popular she is. And I'm going to ask this question and I'll give an answer. What was your favorite Saya Kamatani title defense? Mine was the Starlight Kid. And the only other person I could see maybe dethroning Saya is Hazuki winning the Cinderella and Hazuki. So again, what would your two favorite Saya Kamatani title defense up to this point be? Because there's been a lot of great ones.
Go on, Karen,
mine's the Starlight Kid match. Because you could see how bad Starlight Kid wanted it. And, as a wrestler in Stardom that always seemingly usually gets her way all the time since she's turned heel, seeing the amount of frustration she has when it comes to Kamatani and Mayu is one of my favorite things. Her inability to surpass either of them is one of my favorite long-term storylines in Stardom. At some point, they need to pull the trigger on her and give her the white belt.
For me, there's been 2 or 3. I mean, it's been a relatively good reign, if we're being honest, isn't it? I was a big fan of the Starlight Kid match. Huge fan of the Mirai match from Flashing Champions. I thought that was a really, really, really good title defense, and just another feather in the cap for Mirai, who's had an absolutely stellar year this year. But also Tam Nakano at World Climax. Like it's a year.
Oh,
exactly. It's a match because it happened so early in the year. And the Natsupoi match at Cinderella Journey, that was a really, really, really good match. And we talk about, Karen's already mentioned Natsupoi. We talk about people who, have got this intrinsic link with the white belt. Natsupoi's another one who could quite easily be the white belt champion. It could have this long sort of journey towards that white belt. She had it with Tam, and obviously there's the Kairi influence. She's lost to Saya Kamatani, and with a little bit of work, you can build that as well. But yeah, for me, it's probably the Starlight Kid match, followed closely by the Mirai match, but not by much. Let's move on to the main event. The reason why people are listening to this podcast, the World of Stardom Championship match, Julia dethroning Syuri 365 days into her reign to become the 15th World of Stardom champion with the glorious Northern Lights bomb, as it's being put on the website, in 29 minutes and 51 seconds, 9 seconds short of a time limit draw. What do you say about this match, Karen?
I cannot say enough good things about this match. As someone who is a massive Sherry fan, and as someone who, when Julia rolled up on the scene in 2019, I had some reservations. I had a bit of frustration with the Hana Kimura program, and then the bikini fight with Tam Nakano. Good times. But it was they put the rocket on Julia when she first showed up. They gave her that hot feud with Hana. They gave her Donna Del Mundo. She started bringing in everybody. And then like all of, the pandemic happened. And then all of 2021 was all about Shuri's journey to the red belt. And it was like also which coincided with Julia getting injured, Julia being the reason they lost the goddess belts. And then like, Prominence showing up and airing out all of Julia's like old ice ribbon laundry. And it was Julia had to rebuild. And then she got, had to drop out of the 5-star. The way that their paths started, separated, reconverged was probably the best way to book it for both of them to be successful in Stardom. I feel like it had it been flip-flopped where Julia won the 5-star in 2021 and then would be the one to dethrone Utami for the belt, it wouldn't have had this. It wouldn't have felt as important because of, there really like she hadn't had that 5-star classic with Utami in 2021. It was Shuri, and she had gotten injured and she had to come back from that. She lost members of Donna Del Mundo. She got new ones, and it was one of those things where it really fed into the story where they had that first match at where Julia challenged Shuri the first time for at World Climax the first night. And it was going into that match, they knew it was kind of like a breakup. Like you knew that it had to be done, but neither of them wanted to do it. But in order for them both to succeed, it had to be done. And it was at that point when Julia lost, it was all of a sudden she was put behind Shuri and she had to be the one to chase her. She had to go through the 5-star. She had to do all of these different things. And it was by the time that match came on, the entrances alone had me crying. And it was the moment where Shuri climbs on the rope during her entrance. And there's this, again, talking about that great camera work. There was a shot of just Julia in the corner of the frame looking at Shuri. And it was that moment where it was like, last year that should have been me. Like that second, like a second of a glance where it was just like, you knew it was going to be time purely because I love Shuri, but she looked like she was being held together with tape in that match.
Quite
like her
literally.
back, her shoulders, her neck, her knees, like everywhere you looked, it was like tape, 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 tape. And I was just like, I'm fine with them having a barn burner of a match, but at the same time, I'm just like, I want Shuri to have a nice vacation. Like I want her to be like, you have, in losing that match, nothing wrong with that. She put the company on her back when, Julia got injured. They were tag champions, but then, Julia had dropped out of the 5-star. So it's one of those things where it was Julia had, Julia walked so Shuri could run, but now it's like, it's not so much a changing of the guard, but more of a baton pass where it's they're on, no one looked weak in that match. They maybe went a little too hard in certain parts of that match. Especially with the throttling of her off the ramp into the audience.
Oh my
where
God.
Where like half the roster cleared an entire section of chairs.
Oh my God.
And those chairs, I don't know if you've ever been on them. They don't tip over very easily. And they're not they have probably a more durable frame than a standard steel chair. So it was she literally bounced off of that chair, and I'm just like, oh God, she's gonna feel that tomorrow. She's gonna feel that tomorrow so badly because I've bumped into those chairs before when I was in Japan. 2 out of 10. No, I wouldn't recommend it to a friend or neighbor that I liked. And then the obligatory Dangerous Queen Julia doing a table spot. With the fact that we had the hardcore match earlier in the night with a table spot, I really didn't want to see a table spot in this match, especially after the yeeting of Shuri into the audience.
Oh grief.
It was they went much harder outside of the ring than they really needed to because the two of them can tell such a great story inside the ring. to the point where, you know, they're throwing not just their each other's finishers at each other. They're throwing Micah's finisher in there. They're throwing Himeka's. They were just like pulling every possible thing that they could think of to figure out how to throw the other person off on their game. And then, you know, when it finished, it was more of I didn't feel any sense of loss. It was Shuri did everything she can. And if you look back at her year, she had a great year. I can't look at any of her matches that she had as a champion and say this was a bad match, because every single match was a great match. And it made me very optimistic as to what Julia will do with the belt. And I think that breathing time between her having that good run with the Wonder Belt, you know, losing her hair, losing it all, coming back even stronger, working her way back up with the Goddess Tag Belt, like it was the story they needed to tell Julia to make her journey to the red belt feel less forced upon. It bookended their journey together in a very positive way.
Absolutely. Matt, I believe your exact words to me were, I stood up and clapped at the end of that match. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, I bet your wife absolutely loved you for that.
It was closer to 7:30, and I think she was close to getting up. And I cried, and I told you I will admit that on the podcast.
You did, yeah.
Literally, when they raised both their hands, because even though Shuri took the pinfall, the ref raised both of their hands, symbolizing that really, again, it's not who goes over, who gets over. These two got over massively here. I literally stood up in my living room, running on about 3.5 hours of sleep, where I thought an hour and a half earlier I was gonna fall asleep. I was wired to the gills. I literally stood up in my living room, of course, I think one of my cats was there, regardless. And I cried tears of joy, because this thing was absolute masterpiece. The way I had somebody, one of my friends asked me, explain to me like what this match was. And to me, like if they were putting together this match, like Shuri and Julia are in the room putting together this match, and like the ghost of Antonio Inoki walks in and he's like, put this and this and this in, because you had a lot of that old school New Japan strong style, fighting spirit style. And then after that, the ghost of Giant Baba comes in, because you had a lot of that All Japan Kings Road in this match. Holy jeez. And then the ghost of Mitsuharu Misawa walked in, because you had a lot of that, again, Kings Road and the Royal Road style of the Noah style. And then it just melded together. Like Karen said, Shuri we saw it going into the 5-star. She was held together with duct tape and bubble gum, and there were some matches in the 5-star where she kind of pumped the brakes a little, and you understood why. And there were some matches she went like really, really hard. This match still would have been one of the greatest starter matches of all time without those two crazy spots on the outside. Shuri taking that bump just to make sure, the unselfishness of her, just to make sure to get Julia over in this match. And I understand what Karen's saying. You didn't need to do that table spot. Well, you kind of did if you're going to do that one spot. If Shuri's like, look, I'm going to take this spot at the same time, then you're going to take something on the outside. We have to come together on the outside and do crazy spots. You have to get one and I have to get one. That's kind of just how it goes. If you're not going to do either of them, that's fine. Then that doesn't happen. But when they got to the table, you know Julia's eating it, because you had to flip it. And then they're building towards the finish. And we did make mention, we did the preview that on these big title defenses, that Shuri's using the Vermilion World, her nuclear finish, to win matches. She beat Utami with it with the belt the year earlier. She beat Utami in the rematch a few months ago. She's beaten Tam with it. She's beaten so many people with it. She hit it clean as a whistle in the middle of the ring. Julia kicks out. And then we start build. She even tried to attempt it off the top rope. I'm like, what are we doing here? Obviously, it started with really good technical wrestling, really good 1 and 2s back and forth. And then even when they were building towards the Kings Road finish, there was a bunch of back and forth, like close, like old school Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat, NWA style 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. So we threw that in there as well, as if we didn't get enough. And then Julia, she hits the Glorious Driver, and then she hits the Northern Lights bomb. Pretty much the same combination she put Tam away with at the 5-star. She even did like the same exact pin where she put her entire back on her. I'm glad this is audio or visual. She puts look at the Stardom Cast logo right there. Look at that. Oh, unbelievable. What a shill. But she even did the same pin. And then she kicked out, and Julia's like, what? That's what I used to beat Tam in like the biggest match of my career. What's it going to take? So then she goes and she hits the Ankatoshi from Micah. She tries to hit the concussion bomb, but you can see Julia's exhausted. And let me tell you, folks, when you get into the depths parts of a match, you have muscle fatigue, and then you have just being blown up. Muscle fatigue is so much harder to get back from, because once you're muscle fatigued, like you're done for at least like 3 or 4 hours. So what does Julia do in between moves? She kicks Shuri square in the head as humanly possible, and then hits the concussion bomb, making her muscle fatigue even more, like even built it up. So I'm like, oh my God, she's going through all the Donald Del Mundo moves. Then she starts climbing to the top rope, and I'm like, who from DDM goes off the top rope? I'm like, oh my God, if she goes for the elbow drop, and even if she misses, Rob will never live this down. That's what I thought she was going for. I'm like, oh
worst
my God.
elbow drop.
I'm like, oh my God, is she going to go for the elbow? But then she does what we deemed in the Ring of Honor dojo, the Joshi style dropkick, that flat back dropkick. And I was like, I don't understand where she's going with that. And then she hits the Tiger Lily, which is Hana Kimura's finishing move sequence. Hana would hit the Joshi style dropkick and then the Tiger Lily. And then she kicks out. She goes for the Northern Lights bomb again. Shuri reverses it, long darts her into the turnbuckle. And then she goes for and then she hits her with the straightjacket German suplex. A lot of people saying, well, she was going to Natsupoi there. My understanding, the way that I looked at it, was Shuri was using everything to beat Julia. It wasn't really the Natsupoi straightjacket German suplex. She was going to the GOAT, the greatest red belt champion of all time, Io. Io won a lot, and we've covered it before on the Patreon, Rob. Io won a lot of matches with that straightjacket German. She hits that, can't get it. They go back and forth again, and then not only does you hear the countdown going, so not only does Julia have to beat the most dominant champion in wrestling this past year, sorry, Roman Reigns, but she also has to beat the clock as well, and then she just hits this disgusting hammerlock Northern Lights bomb that puts poor Shuri right on her head. You get the emphatic 3 count with 9 seconds left. Shuri does the great thing. She puts the belt on her. She's crying. Julia's crying. I'm crying. Folks, this is wrestling at its absolute best. I'm breaking the Meltzer scale. 5.5 stars.
Wow.
Match of the year.
Let's go.
Unbelievable. Even to the point where I text you, and I know you're on your way to vacation. Wasn't going to ruin it for you. I said, stay off Twitter. The show was solid. There was one match on the show. I didn't tell you what it was. Of course, you figured it out within about a half a second. That is, and I think I even deemed it to you. It's like one of the top 25 or 30 best matches I've ever seen in all of wrestling. I didn't want to tell you how I really felt, because I didn't want to spoil it or build it up too much, because sometimes I do that. But I'm going to tell you right now, as far as the greatest matches in Stardom, number 1 is Mayu versus Io, end of the year climax, 2016. Right behind there, Thunder Rock defending against Meiko Satomura and Kairi. And right behind there is this match. This is my third favorite Stardom match I've ever seen. And again, and I was serious. If you had to give me a pen and paper and said, Matt, you have 2 hours and your 35 plus years of watching, studying wrestling, give me your top 25, 30 matches of all time, this match is definitely on there. Definitely on there. I don't know what more I need to say.
I mean,
very good.
This match had the graps. I mean, there's very little that I can add that Karen and Matt haven't already said and summed up in far better way than I ever could. But there was one moment in this match where, and it was just before Julia went into the sequence where she was hitting the Donna Del Mondo moves, which in itself was excellent, because it was a kind of almost like a little tour of where they'd been together. And I just, that little bit on its own was just beautiful.
And they were there.
They were there by the side. Absolutely. But there was a moment where Julia stood up and Shuri was sort of stood there, and Julia was sort of fumbling around Shuri as though she wasn't quite sure what sort of move or what to lock in where. And that was such a perfect encapsulation of, I have thrown absolutely everything at this woman. I don't know what to do next. I'm exhausted. You mentioned muscle fatigue, Matt. I literally do not know what I have to do to put Shuri away. And that momentary sort of confusion and self-doubt, I loved it, because it encapsulated the entire roller coaster of drama and emotion that these two effortlessly weaved into this beautiful narrative. I mean, I talked earlier about the Kairi and the Utami match, that there wasn't one moment of wasted motion. And in 29 minutes and 51 seconds, there is not one moment of this match, 1 second of this match, one move in this match that isn't used for a specific purpose, whether it's sort of a one-upmanship. And I think it's helped as well by the fact that they don't hate each other. It's not a visceral hatred. It's a respect and a friendship. And that moment where you've got God's Eye in the ring, you've got Donna Del Mondo in the ring, you've got everyone in tears. It's such a catharsis to finish 2022 on. And these two women honestly put on a match that I did not expect. I expected it to be hard-hitting. You know, I didn't expect the, as Karen so wonderfully put it, yeeting Shuri into the... literally into the chair. Honestly, I'm watching it going, Jesus Christ, she's not going to be able to walk. And this was like, it was only about 6 minutes into the match as well. You expect those big spots in a championship match, but the emotion they managed to layer into it, the peaks and valleys they managed to layer into it, the exhaustion, and not just mental exhaustion, but literally exhausting their own arsenal to the point where they're standing there going, I don't know what else to throw at you. And just that desperation, I loved it. I mean, I think I said it in my book about how the Utami Shuri match from Tokyo Dream Cinderella was the easiest 5 stars I've ever given to a match. This isn't far behind it. Because in terms of pure emotion, pure drama, there are very few matches that have hooked me in for the entire match as much as this one did. I absolutely loved it. Gave it 5 stars. What else is there left to say? It's perhaps the greatest match in Stardom. It's certainly in the conversation for the top 3, certainly. And I know Meltzer gave it 4 3/4 stars, and it's one person, it's subjective, and all that sort of jazz.
Oh, Big
Dave.
What did he give the Elite this week? That's
what
exactly. I want
exactly.
to know.
Yeah,
I think the same. I think they were the same. It was the same. I was like,
yeah,
really?
Yeah, no.
Great match,
exactly.
But no, this Shuri. I mean,
yeah, you put Kenny Omega in that match as a 3-way, and it's a 5-star match. But in all seriousness, I prefer this to the Utami and Shuri match. And that's nothing against that match. I love that match. I revisit it so often, it's unreal. I preferred this match. And
what? Oh.
Okay.
Sorry. One of the things that also stood up, because you were talking about visuals and their history, is that when they had the pre-show or pre-match of VTR, you saw Julia cornering for Shuri last year at Dream Queen, or 2 years ago at Dream Queendom.
Yeah.
And all of Donna Del Mondo being in the ring with her and, like, you know, helping her out after that, carrying her to the back. And then, you know, you talked about after this match, it was all of Donna Del Mondo and God's Eye. They weren't like pulling Julia and Shuri apart. They were all just there, absorbing the last year together, and it was, you know, very, very cathartic in that sense. But for me, I was already broken at that point with Julia like reaching for Shuri's hand and like, grabbing it at the very end. But when Shuri, like, God bless her, like, you know, muscle fatigue and all, like, he climbs up the side of the referee and takes the belt and puts it around Julia's waist. It was the caption that Shuri used when she posted the picture the next day was, I've left it onto Julia. I've passed the Stardom legacy onto Julia. And that could not better summarize their journey together. And it was just one of those things where it's honestly, when for post, literally like the day after I was on the SmackDown show, and they're like, give us the dirty about Julia versus Shuri, and I'm like, you want a match of the year contender at the last 3 days of 2022? That's your match contender of the year. And I feel like it bums me out to know that they weren't given 5 stars on it, honestly, because it was it had everything and then some, especially with the history between the two of them in the last year and a half.
I think we're all in agreement that as far as the Shuri run goes, 365, this is the best match, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
as far as successful title defenses go, what would you say would be your favorite match from this run? Ladies first, Karen. What would
Oh,
your
yeah, I haven't given it much thought, to be honest.
I'm just throwing out because then I'm going to throw another question out there without even giving you
Uh,
time to think because
I
that's
mean,
what I do.
I don't want to go with Utami because Utami, like, their forever rivalry is something special. And, you know, after this Dream Queendom, Julia and everything that she said to Shuri after the match was also very special. Putting those two aside, it's really hard for me to pick one, but it's the, I feel like, and this might be out of left field, I really liked the Risa Sarah match.
Oh, okay.
Largely because it was Shuri reminding Risa that she was a wrestler before she was a hardcore fighter. And that it was the one at that point in time, I was still not very sold on Prominence being in Stardom, to be honest. I didn't like that they were, you know, peddling their wares in my Stardom, as it were. Because I felt like the story with Prominence was largely supposed to be circulating around Julia, not bringing, not dragging, you know, God's Eye and Shuri and all of that into the Julia drama arc of the story. I mean, her Mayu match was great. I loved the Himeka and the Maika matches. It's just like there's just so many of them.
The Tam one was very good too.
The Tam one was a great one. It's just had I been given more time to prepare for this question, Matthew.
I'm going to throw you another one too.
Oh, son of a biscuit.
I'm going to throw you, but I'll go first. But Rob, you can give your answer. I'll throw the next question, but I will answer that question to give you a little bit of buffer. Rob, my good friend, what as far as successful title defenses go, which one? Which is great. There's no wrong answer. That's what's great about
it.
There
is no wrong answer. Which is great because I've had time to think about it whilst Karen was answering.
Jerk.
Mine's the Maya match. I know that was sort of seen as the lesser match after the Julia one the night before, but I love that match. I've watched it, I think 4 times now, and I've loved it more and more. The limb work, just the visceral agony that Mayu is in, and the way that the referee stops this match is just, it's the perfect sort of, if you said, what is Shuri as a wrestler? And then you watch a match at Yokohama Cinderella in 2020, and then look at the full circle she comes to in World Climax, where she utterly destroys the icon of Stardom, literally has her screaming on the mat. It's just the perfect encapsulation of a reign. I thought it was a fantastic match.
Yeah, to the shock of no one, I'm going to agree with you as always, my friend. Yeah, I mean, the Utami one is right there as well. The Tam one.
Absolutely.
When Tam
Momo Watanabe was another great one.
Yeah. I forgot about that one.
Yeah. You know why? Because that before that was Starlight Kid and Saya Kamatani. Like, what a great 1-2 punch.
Yeah, that was a really good show. Yeah.
But yeah, I will agree with you, my good friend. And then last question is, and I will answer first to give both of you time to think. As far as red belt runs go, where does this rank in all-time red belt runs? Obviously, you know what I'll say number one is, Rob. You know what I'm going to say, the EO, her second one. Then as far as what's number 2, you asked me on a different day. It's Utami and the Mayu 2019-2020, even though it was only 5 successful title defenses because of COVID. Every one of those matches, even the match she beat Priestley and the match he loses to Utami, those are all like 4.5 to 5-star matches. So this is like 2, but it's like tied with Utami and Mayu. But obviously, again, the EO, her second run, the V14, is my all-time favorite run. Not only in Stardom, but it's one of my all-time favorite championship runs just ever. So, Karen, I'll give you, since you're the guest here and you're already mad at me, but don't worry, you're going to feel better about me. You're going to feel better about me in 2 minutes, I promise. I will get Rob. Go ahead. Give Karen some time. Where does this? Again, there's no wrong answer.
Well, if you go to stardomcast.com and look at the championships, where you've got an in-depth championship histories, as well as all the tournaments. But I'm just looking at it now. I mean, EO's V14 run is fairly lauded, but you look at Shuri's 10 defenses, and there's not one I haven't absolutely loved. Like, I'm looking at like the Mirai one at Nagoya Supreme Fight was really good. Even the Nene Takahashi one, which everyone was a little bit Like, really? Nene in the red belt picture? Okay. Even that was really, really good. And Utami's is the same. Utami was one of those where she just knocked it out of the park with whoever she was in the ring with, like B. Priestley, Sayaka Kamatani. You know, people were like, oh, really? They're red belt matches? And they were without exception, fantastic matches. The Hazuki match from Kawasaki Super Wars, which is still to this day one of my favorite matches of 2021. The pair of matches with Maika. I'd argue that Io Shirai's run is fantastic, but there is the odd match in the Io run, which there will be at 14 title defenses, where, you know, the Casey Owens one, for example, or the Kaylee Ray one's great, but it's, you know, it's okay. But in my opinion, the Syuri one, there is not a bad match in that entire run. So I'm going to sit on the fence. And if EO's is 1A, this is 1B.
There you go. Miss Karen?
Those are two very astute observations, gentlemen.
Thank you.
For me, of course, EO is synonymous with the red belt. Let's be honest. You can't. She's, to my knowledge, still the longest reigning consecutive World of Stardom champion. And yeah, like that's her belt. Until somebody clears 15 defenses, it's going to be very hard. But while EO's synonymous with the belt in that sense, when it comes to names that have consistently elevated the championship, Syuri and Utami are definitely that one, either that 1.5 / number 2 spot.
Yeah.
Because their reigns in the last 2 years, their matches have put Stardom's name on the international radar.
Yeah.
Like, people have been talking about, the 5-star 43-minute Utami Syuri match. People have been talking about the, Utami's match against Takumi Iroha. Like, there are their defenses, especially in the last 2 years, have drawn more eyes to Stardom as the world champion without ever stepping foot outside of Japan.
Yeah, good point.
We have been spoiled having these two runs consecutively.
Absolutely.
And Mayu before it.
And Mayu before it, absolutely. That, considering it was only 5 defenses, like, there was no bad matches in that run.
Rob, I always say when it comes to title matches, you always want to bookend it. You always want to win the belt in a great match and lose the belt in a great match. Obviously, we talked at nauseam how great that match was that she lost the belt with Julia. If you want to read about how great her match was that she won the belt, folks, turn to page 315 of Stardom Living the Dream by my good friend Rob Goodwin. Now, Rob, as you know, we have new listeners. Absolutely, my friend. As you know, we have new listeners every week on this show, and we thank you. I know a lot of people were probably saying, boy, you guys are really putting over Syuri. I read somewhere in Pro Wrestling Illustrated, she was the #1 rated female wrestler of the year. And I was
say that.
Absolutely she was. Absolutely she was. And you may say, you know what, Matt, like, I just wish that maybe we can get an interview from somebody, like in English. And they're actually in this magazine. There is somebody that does the interview, and it's actually somebody on this podcast, one Miss Karen Peterson. So it's a great interview. I'm such a huge fan of your work, Karen. As you know, I put you over all the time.
Thank you so much.
If you're a Stardom fan, and you must be, if you're 2.5 hours into this, go and get this issue. Karen does a phenomenal job with this magazine, and I'm going to make a prediction and then put something out there that I want to see happen. I think as long as you never want to see this happen to anybody. As long as there's no injuries, I believe Julia this time next year will be the #1 PWI #1 for next year, Women's Wrestler of the Year, especially with the string of challengers she has coming up. And I want to put that out there. If that does happen, which I think it will, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, let's have Karen Peterson back on it again. Let's have her interview Julia, who I believe will be the #1 wrestler this time next year.
For those who are listening to the audio version, my camera is off for this particular recording because I'm not feeling too hot. And thankfully, that's a good thing because I am as red as a beet right now. I am the red belt red right now. I am so incredibly flattered, and I'm so thankful that you put me over like that. Also, I just want to throw a little sidebar. When I was in Japan, the day I went to Gold Rush in Osaka, Stardom received their copies of that issue, and the girls were so thrilled about it. So it was a very important moment for me because the PR team was like, we got the issues of PWI, and they pulled one out of the box, and the sound that came out of me, I was just like, this is the wildest thing. It's one, I mean, I had already had an issue and I had brought it with me, but to see it like in Japan at the Stardom show with the Stardom staff, I was like, oh my God, this is so wild.
That's amazing.
So thank you. If you can find it in the wild, please send me a picture of it because I enjoy that kind of stuff.
It was very, if you remember when I was giving Rob his cheap plug when you were on here the first time for Store Crossover, I couldn't find the issue anywhere. And I'm like, if I have to eBay it, I'll eBay it. And I wind up finding it at a random Walmart that I was in twice in the last 7 days. And it was the only one left. And there was a lady there putting away magazines. She even said when I grabbed it, she goes, we don't sell a lot of print stuff because everything's digital now. She goes, but for some reason, when it comes to wrestling magazines, that one has sold out the fastest. Just let you know.
Sorry. Oh my gosh. I am. Yes,
I bring more positivity. No, honestly, Karen,
absolutely.
We can't thank you enough. Really, we can't thank you enough. We would have never asked you to be on the show if we didn't love your work. When I told Rob when I met you at the New York City show, and he's like, "Oh, you should ask her to be on the show." I'm like, "Oh, I already sent her an email. Yeah, it's already we're working on it." So, I thank you for coming on for the first time and the second time, and hopefully you'll come back soon. Hopefully we didn't go too long and bore you to death here. So
yeah, I'm fine. It's a lovely sunny day here in Orlando, Florida, and I'm just here glad to be talking Stardom with two of my close personal friends now. So
thank you. What way to end it.
I love
what a great way to start the year, brother.
Happy New Year, guys. Thank you for having me back.
Karen. Well, thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening and sticking around. 2 hours and 40 minutes. Did not think it was going to be this long, but I've loved talking to you both about, a fantastic show with an absolutely unbelievable main event. So thank you both. The guys in the podcast realm will be back at some point this week, 5:00 British Standard Time on Friday. We'll be talking about the inaugural Triangle Derby, the opening night of that, as well as previewing what will be the show main evented by Saya and Amisori for the white belt. So me and Bat will be back for that. In the meantime, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to get your votes in for the Stardom Cast Awards. Check out our Twitter. It is pinned to our newsfeed, so please go and check that out. You can subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts if you would like, because that would really help us out. It would massively help us out.
Mark?
Yeah, question mark. You can also subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/The Stardomcast. Check out the website, www.thestardomcast.com, as well, for loads and loads of in-depth stuff on Stardom for those who are potentially new to the promotion and don't know where to start. Karen, where can they find you? Plug all of your things.
Well, if you're interested in my Japanese wrestling journey, you can head on over to postwrestling.com and search up my name, Karen Peterson. I largely do coverage for Stardom on their big shows. I also have a column formerly known as Dream Slam Weekly, but is now going to be Dream Slam Monthly, which will come out at the end of each month. And I'm also doing more Pro Wrestling Noah and New Japan coverage for Post as well. So my next event, of course, will be Wrestle Kingdom 17 hours of wrestling for an Antonio Inoki on this coming Wednesday. And if you're into the whole Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine vibe, I do some work there as well. If you want to follow me at Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube at Hey Karen Sensei. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. Don't forget, you can follow the podcast at The Stardomcast on all of our social medias. Thank you very much. Matt, plug your stuff. Sign us off, my friend.
Everyone, thank you so much for hanging with us for it's getting close to 3 hours now. Greatly appreciate it. And greatly, I speak on behalf of myself and Rob. Thank you so much for a phenomenal 2022. And I know 2023 is going to be even better. We appreciate your support. Any questions, comments, anything I can do to help you out, just let me know. Matt Turner OF on the Instagram and the Twitter. If social media is not your thing, I completely understand. Hit me up on the email, thestardomcast22@gmail.com. Because like I always say, folks, just not my podcast. It's our podcast because we're all in this together and everybody's different. Everybody's special.